after an earlier rollover crash. Elsewhere, the expressways and tollways look pretty good. Most of the overnight work is gone now. There's still a right lane closure on the outbound Ryan and the express lanes from Garfield to 59th. There's some work on Toohey Avenue at the Adams Tollway again today till 6 this morning to right lane closure each way. Metro will operate an early getaway schedule today for Good Friday. Additional outbound trains will run early in the afternoon, and then some of the later trains have been canceled. The old basketball traffic tonight around the United Center with the NCAA tournament in town. First game starts at 6:10. Traffic is a service of the Foundation for a Better Life. She didn't just visit the sick and poor, she moved in with them because they needed help. Mother Teresa couldn't do it all, but she gave her all. Compassion. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Yeah, we're ganged up. Folks from Iowa coming over. Heading up I-80 and I-90 coming into town tonight. We'll watch them flood in as we watch the weather this morning. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. The latest this morning with meteorologist Kevin Snyder.
Today, mostly sunny with a high 46. Tonight, partly cloudy, low 32. Some sun tomorrow, followed by clouds, high 57. Mostly cloudy at night, low 42. Mostly cloudy with showers Easter Sunday, high of 53. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
And 30 at O'Hare, 32 along the lakefront, 32 at Midway. Your next news update is at 5:30. Continuous news coverage at 560theanswer.com. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts now on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Autumn Leaves Memory Care Communities, now open in Glen Ellen. Take a virtual tour at autumnleaves.com.
Good morning. Welcome to your Friday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
The advanced person who let him do the tango, that person ought to be looking for work on somebody's, in somebody's campaign very, very far away. That was a tremendous mistake. It's fine to go to Argentina. You want to do the work, but you've got to be careful of these little photo ops for optics, baseball games and tangos.
Back at home, turning now to the race for president, and a furious Ted Cruz unleashing today on Donald Trump after the Republican frontrunner fanned the flames in the war over their wives on social media.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Nobody respects women more than I do.
I see him in life. He treats women the same as men.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune editorial board Kristen McQuarrie. Kristen, thanks so much for filling in. We appreciate it. You have to turn your microphone on so people can hear you.
I do that every time.
I know.
I can't get in the building every time.
It's a great bit that
I
you
always
do.
forget
Yeah.
to turn my mic
It's
on.
a great radio bit.
What's next?
Well, Amy is in Mass all day today, thanking the Father for sending his only Son to die for her sins and saying that I'm without sin, I'm working.
Right. Well, her kids are out of school, correct? Is this one of those furlough days, temper tantrum days that CTU is having, or this was scheduled?
Those are fighting words. A temper tantrum day?
Yeah.
It's incendiary.
Isn't that what they're doing?
That is, but it doesn't make it less incendiary. So, yeah, I think, April 1 is the showdown strike.
Which is a week from today.
Right, but is this one of the... It's so difficult to keep track of all the days that Chicago Public School students are not in school.
I know.
I admit I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they only have a 3 to 4 day work week for the next month or so.
Yeah, we're going to get to that, too, particularly because of that Illinois State Supreme Court ruling on pensions and the implications for all public sector union workers, including teachers, even though they specifically weren't at bar in this case. Right. We'll get to that. But one thing, and by the way, we're going to have, speaking of the divine, we are going to have Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, who's the chaplain to Loyola University of Chicago's athletic team. She's going to be on at 6:36 to update on her divinely inspired picks in the NCAA tournament.
Great.
Did you fill out a bracket? Are you watching? Because, the Sweet 16 game started last night. I don't know if you knew that.
I I mean, that explains why I haven't seen my husband in a couple weeks. So I'm kind of a March Madness widow. I haven't really tuned in.
He's at Buffalo Wild Wings, like those commercials?
No, he's in the house, but just, cordoned off in the basement with laptops, 2 phones, large television. So, yeah.
And so, but you're not paying attention.
I'm really not. I will sometimes pay attention to what the Missouri Valley teams are doing, but I think they're all out, right?
Because you're an Illinois State grad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, is Wichita State out?
Wichita State lost. That's a good program. It's a good team.
It is. They're fun to watch.
They had a good run, but they're out, unfortunately, and that concludes our update on Missouri Valley Conference sports.
How's your bracket, Dan?
It was solid, and then a big game last night. I missed one of the games last night, but it's a big one because a lot of people have Kansas going to the Final Four. A lot of people have Kansas winning it all. I had Maryland upsetting Kansas. That did not come to pass, so it has brought me back to the pack, I'm afraid, in some of my pools.
But so your bracket is still, it's not blown up?
No.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Don't suggest the outrageous.
Let's not lose our minds. There's a little bit of a hiccup last night. That's all.
You've been out before at this point, I bet.
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the chances of the perfect bracket, like 1 in a billion or something?
The chances of the perfect bracket are slightly worse than the chances of winning Powerball, which is why Warren Buffett offered the $1 billion bonus for anybody who had the perfect bracket.
And it's never happened, right?
No, it never happened. It will never, ever happen.
Is that why
Just like a Republican being mayor of Chicago, it will never happen.
No, it won't. I agree with that.
And you know why that is?
I could give you 20 reasons, but
go
ahead.
There's only one reason. It's a trick question. The reason is because you run without party affiliation in Chicago.
That's everybody knows Rahm Emanuel's a Democrat.
You have to get up
Daley was a
pretty
Democrat,
early.
and no, I thought you were asking a more intelligent question than that.
I was asking a smart-ass question.
Oh,
so that's what I do. There will be a mayor of Chicago who's a Republican someday. I don't know when that day will be, and I won't be here, but someday it's going to happen because it's all going to break apart per that state Supreme Court ruling, to some extent. To some extent, although I think there's a silver lining there. But we're going to talk to an attorney for the labor unions at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, but we'll tackle it before then. I also want to tackle, though, update, as we've been keeping track of everything that's happened since the terrorist attacks in Brussels on Tuesday. There is an update and also some concessions by the Belgian government about how prepared they were and how aggressive they were versus what they should have been in advance of that terrorist attack. But yesterday, 6 people were arrested as part of a large police operation in Brussels, this according to a Belgian prosecutor. 2 suspects, though, remain on the loose. So there are multiple suspects still at large, according to the Belgian government, but 6 arrested. So we're starting to see that it wasn't just the 3 terrorists that were caught on that airport surveillance, the picture that made its way around the internet. They're looking at this as those 3 being part of a larger cell.
Right. And wasn't one of the, I think even in Paris, there was a separate arrest where they actually think that they stopped what was going to be another planned attack. So no reprieve from jihadists at this point.
The French Interior Minister, to your point, Kristen, could describe the French plot as in the advanced stage of preparation. It was discovered after a French national was arrested yesterday morning. No links that were apparent at this stage in the investigation. Now that the Parisian authorities have people in custody, no links at this stage between the foil plot in France and the Paris or the Brussels attacks, according to, again, the French Interior Minister. But this is still in its infancy in terms of trying to mine for intelligence and information the people that they have taken into custody. And we will talk in this show in the 7 and 8 o'clock hours. We're going to have important discussions on counterterrorism, particularly as it pertains to America's preparedness for radical Islamic terrorist attacks. Professor Robert Pape, who runs the University of Chicago's Project on Security and Terrorism, will join us. And then Waleed Phares, Fox News, and now a Trump Inner Circle foreign policy advisor, will join us at the
38 hour. And all of this seriousness against the backdrop of Donald Trump and Ted Cruz still having a hair-pulling fight over whose wife is the prettiest. That's a little distressing. Ted Cruz yesterday, boy, oh boy, what did you make of Ted Cruz yesterday taking the opportunity to escalate the war of words over wives between Cruz and Trump?
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
What do you think about that?
I mean,
chivalry isn't dead as long as Ted Cruz is around?
Right. It doesn't hurt him, So the backstory, somebody tweeted out, not Donald Trump, but he retweeted it, a photograph of Heidi looking very unflattering next to Trump's wife. Is it Melania? Melania, looking, gorgeous, as she always does, and said, a picture says 1,000 words or something like that. And Donald Trump retweeted it. I mean, this is just like schoolyard fights over a girl. It doesn't hurt Cruz. It probably helps him to come to his wife's aid, but I doubt Heidi Cruz really needs him, on the battlefield for her. She's pretty accomplished.
I mean, I'm a Cruz supporter, but it was a bit contrived, and extending this fight seems to me a little bit tone deaf from both of them. It's not as tone deaf as being at a baseball game with a communist dictator or doing the tango in Argentina. It's not that tone deaf.
It's not that tone deaf.
But it is a little tone deaf. Rather than escalating the war of words over wives, perhaps Cruz's better play and more consistent with the nature and the tone of his campaign to this point would have been, that's what Donald Trump does. He engages in those playground insults as you described them. We just had 34 people murdered in Brussels and another several hundred injured on top of other terrorist attacks in recent times. We're having an important national and international conversation about the war against radical Islamic terrorists. So Donald Trump can engage in this grade school stuff. I'm running for president of the United States because we need leadership in the White House that engages on the important existential stuff, whether the president of the United States thinks it's existential or not. And frankly, even though he's a bit of a sympathizer for President Obama, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, no part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, Richard Haass, essentially suggested the same thing.
You now have a new Democratic government. They're doing the right things economically. They're doing the right things politically. It's a good story. However, the advanced person who let him do the tango, that person ought to be looking for work on somebody's, in somebody's campaign very, very far away. That was a tremendous mistake. It's fine to go to Argentina. You want to do the work, but you've got to be careful of these little photo ops for optics, baseball games and tangos. That's inconsistent with the seriousness of the day.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Why don't you do the weather Family Guy style? It's cold!
I'll do it in like a sportscaster tenor. Today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, lows in the 30s. Tomorrow, some sunshine giving way to clouds, high of 57. Lows dip again tomorrow night to 42. Now we'll get a check of traffic with Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Kristen. Good morning. Good morning, Dan. And on this Good Friday, we've got a crash on 394, and 394 is closed southbound between Steger and Richton Road because of that crash. I-80 westbound, west of I-55. There's a shoulder block to clean up an earlier rollover crash. Elsewhere, the expressways and tollways, as you might expect, are pretty light right now. There's still a little road work on the outbound Ryan. The right express lane is closed from Garfield to 59th till 6 this morning. And elsewhere, things look good. Metra has an early getaway schedule today. More trains early in the afternoon, fewer late. I'm Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
Shut up! You're not my mother!
America has a serious narcotics problem. 90% of the world's narcotics are taken by Americans. They have a place, but when you're dealing with chronic pain, pain that doesn't go away or which frequently returns, there is a better way. You're masking the pain. We help you find and deal with the source of the chronic pain to get real relief. This is Ken Candido of Chicago Anesthesia Pain Specialists. We're serious players in pain. Our team are national leaders and we're educators in the treatment of pain. We will work with you to diminish or eliminate your pain and help you get your life back. Contact us, we will help you. You don't have to live with chronic pain. We treat all pain. We don't mask it with painkillers and narcotics that are not good for you and which can be addictive. I have a simple message for you. If you or someone you love or someone you know has chronic pain, contact us. Treating chronic pain issues is what we do. We can make it better. Get an appointment and let's talk. MyPainChicago.com, MyPainChicago.com. All the info is available at MyPainChicago.com. Let's make you pain-free.
Grandview Capital buys homes. If you have a home to sell and it has problems, we will make you a no-obligation cash offer and close fast. If your home is badly outdated, we will buy it. Water damage, mold, or junk up to the rafters, we will buy your home as is. If you have a home that is vacant or soon to be, and you want to avoid the exhausting and stressful ordeal of maintaining it, paying taxes on it, or attempting to sell it, let Grandview buy your home today. We'll give you a fair offer with no obligation, pay you cash, and close on your timetable. Leave the stress and the mess to us. To sell your distressed or vacant home quickly with no commissions and without repairs, call Grandview at 1-800-USA-HOMES. We will buy your home today. Call 1-800-USA-HOMES or visit gvcproperty.com. That's gvcproperty.com. Call the name you can trust, Grandview Capital, accredited by the Better Business Bureau.
Hi, this is Dr. David Kolbaba. So you get yourself one of those blood tests with all the poking and prodding. They're always looking for some kind of bad news. Most blood tests these days are very lacking, only screening you for the big, bad, and ugly diseases, and with you never really getting the good news, or even knowing what to do with the not-so-good news. So let me tell you about our dirt cheap comprehensive blood test. First of all, we'll be testing a wide variety of different health factors and not just the ugly few. And then we're going to sit down with you and strategize with all that we learned from your blood test findings. And I promise that you're going to know more about what you can do to help improve your health using a more natural, common sense approach. And for over 33 years, we've been very successful at setting people free from their toxic medications. It's our dirt cheap comprehensive blood test. Call 800-794-1855. You can't get any cheaper than dirt cheap. That's 800-794-1855. Be sure to tune in to Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, this Saturday morning at 11.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan, and sitting in for Amy this morning is Kristen McQuarrie, Chicago Tribune editorial board member. And Kristen, talking about Brussels, 2 Americans confirmed among the dead.
Gotta turn on my mic.
Turn on the mic, yeah.
Gosh, hopefully I'll get it by 9. Correct. So there was a brother and a sister who were checking in at the American Airlines desk, talking to their mother when the blast occurred, and the family put out a statement late last night saying that the Belgian authorities provided to the families gathered at the hospital a list of the names of all remaining victims of the tragedy of March 22nd who remain alive. Sadly, our beloved Alexander and Sasha were not among them. And the family goes on to thank the Dutch embassy and authorities in Brussels for all of their help. But these were 2 American college students, I believe, visiting their father who lived in the Netherlands.
And so the threat of radical Islamic terror and how to defeat radical Islamic terrorists, State Department spokesman John Kirby, State Department spokesman John Kirby weighed in on this.
This isn't about a religion. This is about a warped and brutal, depraved ideology that continues to be attractive to a small number of people in the Muslim faith, radicals and extremists, and we don't believe that it is, it's indicative of any way of the Muslim faith or the people who practice Islam as a religion.
The first part of that bromide, I'm really kind of getting tired of. Really, it's getting tired of hearing the rationalizing and contextualizing for this. Peggy Noonan has a piece in the Wall Street Journal today, How to Defeat Radical Jihadism. She writes, what we're seeing now is not just radical jihadist Islam versus the West, but increasingly radical jihadist Islam versus the world. Of course, we know this, the move in North Africa and other parts of Africa, frankly, East and West Africa too, as well as Central Asia. radical jihadism is not going to go away, writes Noonan, not for a long time, probably decades. For 15 years, it has in significant ways shaped our lives and will shape our children's too. They will have to win the war. It will not effectively be fought with guilt, ambivalence, or double-mindedness, which is what you heard from John Kirby, I would submit. That in the West will have to change. Here's something I thought that was interesting among the points that she made, the observation she offered. I continue to believe that part of the reason that leaders of the West don't take this seriously as they should. I continue to believe that part of the reason is that religion isn't very important to many of them, so they have trouble taking it seriously as a motivation of others. You agree with that?
I do. I was reading something, I think it was from BBC News, but it talked, this author was just describing how a lot of these jihadists, this is not an ideological war for them. These are people who have kind of crossed over from being criminals into jihad, but that it's not ideological. This is not faith-based. The mastermind of the Paris attacks was someone known to, smoke weed and drink alcohol and watch some ISIS videos. But it's more a reflection of just where they grew up, not assimilating. And I'm not justifying it. I'm just explaining it, that this outrage toward authority and kind of feeling like they've been left on the fringes, which when we describe terrorism in Chicago, you see almost a very similar situation with people who have no hope, no future, and, they take that direction out on killing other people.
Yeah, I think religion has a lot to do with it.
You do.
I don't think there's any question. Shall we talk about the number of radicalized mosques? Shall we talk about what is taught in madrasas the world over? Is hate not taught? Is antipathy towards the West not pervasive? Not necessarily.
That's correct.
Not necessarily participants in violent activity, in terrorist activity, but antipathy towards the West. So where does that come from?
Well, you're right. It is taught. I'm not sure that these particular jihadists, all of them, did this out of a faith-based place. And even Peggy Noonan says in her column that, there are 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, and most of them are peaceful and peaceable, living their lives, and especially in America, taking an admirable role in the life of the nation.
I agree, but she also invokes the 10% rule. And what's 10% of 1.5 billion? A big number. A big
number of people who despise the West.
Well,
but would never be violent.
Well, no, the 10% rule is the people that are inclined to jihadism, is what she's suggesting. And what if it's 1%? 1% is 16 million people. That's a big number. That's bigger than the state of Illinois in terms of population. That's a lot of people. A small percentage, but a big number. I think we're still in this kind of, we're bound by the cliche-ridden rhetoric of our politicians. So many of us are. I think you have to recognize that, yes, of course that's true, but that's immaterial. Why are we obsessing about that? And why do we give almost equal audience to discussions of Islamophobia, of all things, as compared to the existential threat of the global war that has been visited upon us by radical Islamic jihadists? I think the double-mindedness that Peggy Noonan speaks of is on point, but I would say her argument that religion isn't very important to them, that's why so many Western leaders are slow to fully comprehend what's happening, I disagree with that. I think she's 15 degrees off. I think religion, the eradication of religion, is very important to them, and that's why they're using this as an opportunity to talk about religion generally and group all religions and the quote-unquote extremist elements within them under one rubric. And I want to pick that up after the news.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hey, if you need to sell your home in Chicagoland, Sean Hannity here with some very important facts that you need to know. Now, 40% of homes hitting the market in Chicago are not selling. Now, those are horrible odds. You need to call Saul Z and the Z team based right here in Chicagoland. Now, Saul sells a home on average every 24 hours and attracts hundreds of buyers every month locally, nationally, and internationally. The Wall Street Journal ranks Saul's team in the top 110 teams out of 1.2 million agents in the U.S. Now, Saul Z guarantees to sell your home in 29 days at a price and deadline that you agree to, or he will buy your home or he'll sell it for free. Plus, working with Saul is also risk-free. After 24 hours, if he's not doing his job, you can walk away free and clear. Just call the agent I would call if I needed to sell my home and lived in Chicagoland. Call Saul now at 888-346-0666. That's 888-346-0666. Or go online at callsaul.net. That's callsaul.net.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up after we check the headlines with Mike Scott, in Islam, the religion is the state. In the secular world, the West, the state is the religion. Problems on both sides of that equation we will discuss at 5:37. But now let's check those headlines with Mike Scott.
31 degrees outside. We have cloudy skies this Good Friday morning. Officials say a man detained in a counter-terror raid in a Paris suburb has connections to the suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks. French officials moments ago identified him as a 34-year-old man, Reda Cricket, who has been wanted since January on suspicion of links to terror. Authorities in Belgium continue to hunt for two involved in Tuesday's bombings that left over 30 dead and 250 injured. 6 have been arrested so far in a wide-ranging series of anti-terror raids. 2 Americans are among the nearly 3 dozen killed in Brussels bombings. U.S. official did confirm that to NBC News today without revealing the names of the victims.
The Belgians have shared information with us on U.S. citizens potentially injured by the attacks. This includes the names of U.S. citizens who are known to be injured and the names of unaccounted for individuals.
Spokesman Mark Toner, Secretary of State John Kerry flying into Brussels for counter-terror talks with top EU and Belgian officials. Kerry will also pay respects to victims and families this week. Christians throughout the world observe Good Friday today. Churches across the U.S. hold special services commemorating the trial and crucifixion of Jesus. Many businesses will close. State and local government offices will be closed in many states. On Wall Street, U.S. markets will be closed. The top 2 Republican presidential candidates having a war of wives. Feud starting up after a super PAC that supports Ted Cruz published an ad featuring racy images of Donald Trump's wife. Then Trump threatened to spill beans about Cruz's wife and posted unflattering pictures of Heidi Cruz. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Cruz threatened Trump.
It's not easy to tick me off. I don't get angry often. But you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
In other news we're following this morning, authorities in Spencer, Indiana believe they have found the body of a 1-year-old girl who had been missing since early Wednesday. They found that body in a river about 13 miles from the home. Authorities in northwest Minnesota say they're letting burn a propane fire in a truck that blazed up when it was struck by a freight train. The collision happened late Thursday afternoon near the small town of Callaway. That town has been evacuated. Microsoft's artificial intelligence bot is a victim of garbage in, garbage out. The AI bot named Tay was created to give Microsoft a better understanding of how young adults converse online. It was given the ability to communicate with real people through social media sites. That's your first mistake, Microsoft. However, within 24 hours, Tay was talking about Hitler and making racist comments. The offensive tweets have since been deleted, and Tay has been sent offline to his room. Chicago sports, New York over the Bulls, 106-94. Major League Baseball spring training style. Angels over the White Sox. Cubs outslugged San Francisco 16-14. A little worrisome that Jake Arrieta left that game in the first inning. Second-seeded Villanova shot 62%, eliminating Miami at 92-69 in the NCAA tournament. Jayhawks won their 17th straight game, beating Maryland. Last night, Oklahoma raced past Texas A&M. The Sooners will now take on number 1 seed Oregon, which eliminated Duke 82-68. The news service of Unbound. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family. You can change their future in a single moment. Go to unbound.org. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
I believe what we need in America today is more love and kindness.
The Joe Walsh Show.
We've had so much love and kindness. We have been like parents who have indulged our kids. Parents who've never said no. Parents who've never set a curfew. We don't need love and kindness. This country needs a kick in the butt.
The Joe Walsh Show. Weeknights starting at 5. Right after Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Here Maps, the app that turns your phone into a car navigation system with offline maps and turn-by-turn guidance. Get it now at here.com/guide.
Wow, Dad, look at it go! It's a home run! It sure is! I love this old ballpark, and I love the way they take care of it. It's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to the next game. And next time, you'll bring that grandson of mine, huh?
Strata Contractors knows that protecting your historical landmarks, professional buildings, and entertainment venues means preserving today's memories for future generations. That's why nationally recognized stadiums, unique architectural buildings, and other venues trust Strata Contractors to create and preserve beautiful and safe environments for their properties. Strata Contractors is equipped to handle complex general contract work inside or outside of your building. They specialize in concrete and masonry, restoration, structural, and ornamental steel. If you're a building owner or facilities manager, make the call to 773-348-8900. That's 773-348-8900. See their case studies on stratacontractors.com.
CertaPro painters are here for every stage of your life, from moving into a new home, creating the ideal nursery, to reinventing your living space. CertaPro painting experts create the perfect setting while you do life. They came to our home and brightened our walls and our moods so very quiet they wouldn't wake a baby. But the best part? They clean up after themselves so you don't have to do it. And now that spring is here, it is the perfect time to spruce up your home's exterior. Take a look at your home. Do you see chipping, peeling, fading? Well, leave it to CertaPro painting experts to refresh, renew, and protect your biggest investment, your home. Now is the time to call for your free estimate and schedule your exterior painting project. 1-800-GO-CERTA, 1-800-GOCERTA. That's CERTA with a C. Or visit CertaPro.com today, CertaPro.com. CertaPro Painters, we do painting, you do life. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated.
5:39 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here's Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. 394 is closed southbound from Steger Road to Richton Road due to a crash. There's construction on the outbound ride on the express lanes from Garfield to 59th in the right lane till 6 this morning. Elsewhere, traffic is pretty light on this Good Friday. No other problems or delays to report. Traffic service Business Outfitters by Land's End. There's an old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's true. Business Outfitters by Land's End makes it easier than ever to look your best, so you always make a great impression. Business Outfitters by Land's End. They supply confidence. Shop now at business.landsend.com. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Sunny, chilly today. High 45, currently 30. Next news coming up at 6. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs powered by Tandem HR. Heard Sunday evenings at 6.
If you're talking about it, I'll be talking about it. Dennis Prager here. Join me this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And sitting in for Amy this morning on this Good Friday is Kristen McQuarrie, good Catholic.
The best.
That's right.
Very obedient.
A Chicago Tribune editorial board member, of course. And we're talking about the terrorist attack in Brussels and the implications now as the conversation has turned to one of policy and politics and national security, as it should, because that's where the response is going to come from. And that's where perhaps a change in thinking and a change in policy decisions will come from as well. So on the one hand, you have the left's position as best exemplified by President Obama, who won't even use the words radical Islamic terrorism, that anything that even resembles a crossword against Muslims or against, more specifically, radical Islamic terrorists just begets more radical Islamic terrorists. Is this quantifiable? Is there evidence to support it? No. And the converse also should be addressed, which is if we say nothing, the terrorists go away. They stop their apocalyptic, trying to carry out their apocalyptic vision of the world, because they only believe this stuff and they're only acting because somebody somewhere in some state in America said a crossword about an Islamist. Does anybody believe that? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. On the flip side, you've got Donald Trump, who sat down this week with Mark Halperin and John Hillman from Bloomberg and had this to say, kind of in general terms, about what we need to do in response to what we saw in Brussels on Tuesday.
So if you were president speaking to the country right now, what would you say optimistically about winning the war on terror?
I'd be very optimistic, and I'd be very tough on terror. I'd be much tougher than what we are right now. And I'd increase our laws so that I'd expand our laws so that we can do certain things. We're not playing on the same field. They have no laws. They have absolutely no laws. They kill people, and they don't talk about it. They don't worry about the law. We do something that's a little bit harsh, and that particular soldier or general or whoever it may be loses his pension and loses his life. We're not playing by the same rules. They're playing dirty stuff, and we're not playing that way. We can't waterboard anymore. We can't do anything. Now, waterboarding, nothing's nice about it, but they say it's a minimal form. Well, you know what? We have to go much tougher because it's eating up the world now, and a lot of the world is weak, and they're weak and ineffective people.
Make Gitmo great again as well. So is there somewhere in between the feckless, sniveling, cowardly, to borrow a Ted Cruzism, policies of Barack Obama and Donald Trump's, we should be able to do something approximating what they do?
Well, sure. I mean, the bar is pretty low from the Obama administration to do anything. If you go to the National Counterterrorism Center, they have actually compiled over the last 15 years. It goes beyond that, but as Peggy Noonan points out, the last 15 years have been most dramatic, all the terrorist attacks from around the world. And it's really striking that the administration continues to deny this when these terrorist attacks are actually occurring monthly. The list of attacks on this site, the National Counterterrorism Center, is like 118 pages long. So I think we sort of lose sight. We remember San Bernardino and, of course, Paris and now Brussels, but we forget about China, Yemen, all kinds of places around the world where terrorist organizations and ISIS have taken credit for terrorist attacks.
We have short memories, but we understand what politicians are saying. I think there's a growing understanding of what politicians are saying when they say certain things or won't say certain things. And Noonan, just to pick up on her piece again, the Wall Street Journal today, said about President Obama's unwillingness to call radical Islam what it is, thinking apparently that if we name them clearly, they'll only hate us more, and Americans on the ground, being racist ignoramuses, will be incited by candor to attack their peaceful Muslim neighbors. She goes on to make the same point about Republican operatives. The power of pride right now in Western public life. Republican operatives and elected officials in the U.S. don't want to change their stand on illegal immigration. A key reason is pride. They're stiff-necked, convinced of their own higher moral thinking, and they will have open borders, which they do not call open borders, but comprehensive immigration reform. But they'll never get to the mechanisms. They see the rise of Donald Trump and know it has something to do with immigration, but they can't bow. Some months ago, Noonan writes, I spoke to an Admiral conservative group which said leaders of the GOP should change their stand. I saw one of the leaders wince as if I had made a faux pas, which I understood. I understood, too, that terrorism is only making them clearly, is only making clearly that they'll hate us more, and Americans on the excuse me, I was misreading that. But she goes on to say about that exchange with the Republican operatives. I understood, too, that terrorism is only making the border issue worse and something's got to give, but I doubt they can change. And it's the prideful nature of politicians in both parties who think that they have some higher moral thinking than those they don't represent, but rather rule. And I think that is in part right. I think it helps largely explain the Trump phenomenon.
Are you saying then that the hard right position of Trump and Cruz when it comes to immigration is partly an issue of pride, and they should perhaps be looking for more common ground?
I think the position they've staked out to varying degrees, the position is not exactly the same, is a response to the unyielding nature of the GOP Beltway elites in both parties. It's a response. That's the response. And the response, you'll note, is receiving a lot of popular support. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz represent, 90% of delegates allotted?
I mean, are we really going to defend, though, Donald Trump's wall that Mexico is going to pay for with the nice, pretty door, the fact that he doesn't really understand the visa problem, the fact that most illegal immigrants are here because they overstayed their visas? There's no way to round up all the...
It's not most, it's 40%.
Okay, 40%. Yes, the American public is being taken with these grand ideas, but they're not enforceable. And I, for one, have been disappointed that the Republican Party has continued to ignore the immigration problem in this country. And I think if I don't know who the nominee is going to end up being, but the lack of...
It's not going to be Marco Rubio, despite that Tribune endorsement. You got that in on just under the wire. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be...
I'm in the middle of a really important thought here.
Sorry.
No, I'm really not. But if whoever the nominee is, if there is another loss, I remember watching the returns for Mitt Romney, and the fact that the Republican Party has still not tried to bridge a relationship with the fastest growing demographic in this country, it boggles my mind.
I don't know that kind of licentiousness with respect to border security is the way to bridge a relationship with any demographic. I think it's a complicated demographic. I don't think it's monolithic in its thinking if we're talking about Latino voters or if we're talking about immigrants more generally. Latinos certainly are not the only immigrants to this country, particularly legal immigrants. And so I think the issue with Trump is not so much the specifics on any issue, including this issue. It's that he's directionally correct and that he seems willing to be at the tip of the spear, leading the charge for something that resembles something we haven't been terribly interested in at the elite level, which is border security as a component part of national security. And I think that's what people are responding to. Let's go to Rick in Valpo. You're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. It's been a little while ago, a few months. I Googled, we were talking about Muslim attacks on Christians, and I Googled Muslim attacks on Christians in Dearborn, Michigan. And the video that came up was one of the most disturbing videos I've ever seen. A group of Christians, there was some sort of festival, Muslim festival in Dearborn, and a group of Christians went to the festival, and they were walking the street, passing out, little tracts, which is what Christians do. And the children, it wasn't adults, it was children, Muslim children, were screaming the most vile, hateful, language that if my kids ever spoke, I'd be all over them like white on rice. Throwing rocks, full bottles of water. The parents of these small children, teenagers and younger, were walking along the sides like in a protective mode, just in case the Christians, defended themselves or, keep an eye on them. The Christians called the police, and the police wouldn't respond.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Rick. Thanks for the call, Rick. I know the incident. The police actually did ultimately respond. It turns out that it's still okay to practice Christianity even in Dearborn, Michigan. But from the left's perspective, the question you have to ask yourself from that incident in Dearborn, Michigan, which Rick recounted correctly, is what did we do to bring that on ourselves? And we're asking all the wrong questions, which is leading us to all the wrong answers.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Your forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 32. Tomorrow, some sunshine giving way to clouds, high of 57. Now we'll throw it to Jim Talamonte for a check of traffic.
Thanks, Kristen and Dan. 394 southbound has reopened between Steger Road and Richton Road after an earlier crash. Eastbound Adams Tollway, I-90 at stop and go from past Bussey to the Des Plaines Oasis, where there's a crash in the left lane. Inbound Kennedy at Randolph, near the downtown area. Watch out for what's reported to be a large rock sitting in the center lane. IDOT is in the process of responding there. The inbound ride has a 2-minute delay from 18th to the Burns Circle. Elsewhere, traffic is a good bit lighter than normal. Jim Talamonte, the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
On AM 560 The Answer, we talk about the important issues that affect your world. Things like the economy, education, and foreign policy. There's always so much going on in the news that we don't always have the time to drill down and talk about the big ideas behind the big issues. That's where Upstream Ideas comes in. Upstream Ideas, online at upstream-ideas.com, in partnership with the Illinois Policy Institute, provides the kind of information that informs the policy discussions happening here on AM 560. At Upstream Ideas, you'll broaden the debate, move beyond partisan assumptions, and challenge accepted orthodoxies. In other words, Upstream Ideas goes against the current and thinks upstream. Go online now to upstream-ideas.com. That's upstream-ideas.com. You'll be armed with new information and fresh perspectives to spur you on to make the state of Illinois and the United States of America a bit more free, a bit more just, and a bit more civilized. Upstream-ideas.com.
If you're in business, you know the importance of communications. Telephony and internet services can mean success and profits. Chicago-based Innovative Networks is a complete provider of high-tech voice and data services that allow your phones and data to efficiently follow you anywhere, in the office or across the world. For companies of all sizes and industries, Innovative Networks provide state-of-the-art equipment, installation, and maintenance for a minimal monthly fee. Your company can enjoy the benefits of superior communications and greater profits. Innovative Networks is offering AM 560 listeners with a business this special deal. Pay $0 up front, plus up to 80% savings over major providers. For your free business communication consultation, call Innovative Networks, an accredited and award-winning Better Business Bureau service provider, at 855-GO-4-INET, or visit go4inet.com. That's 855-GO4-INET. Innovative Networks, communication, technology, and reliability. Call 855-GO4-INET.
If you're a baby boomer or senior without an estate plan or have other existing legal needs, rest assured, peace of mind can easily be yours. Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski proudly supports AM 560's Feed the Children Business Benefactor Program and are excited to introduce their family law firm to listeners like you. For over 3 decades, they've provided Chicagoland families with estate plans and solutions, including elder care and nursing home planning, wills, trusts, guardianships, and probate avoidance. Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski take a friendly, professional approach. Their mission is to always treat clients just like family and provide quick response to your questions. And you'll always speak with an attorney. Please call Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski, the People's Lawyer, for your initial no-obligation consultation at 630-860-5520 or visit peopleslawyer.info. That's 630-860-5520 or online at peopleslawyer.info.
Business moves at the speed of trust. Trust in your product, and just as imperative, trust in those that represent your business. For almost 3 decades, Flex Execs has assisted their clients in becoming more competitive by identifying the right talent for interim assignments or special projects at the mid to senior level. Flex Execs' roster of talent is superior and unmatched. Flex Execs will help you meet your deadlines, goals, control cost, and place the right people who will deliver desired results. Business moves at the speed of trust. Trust the people that represent your business. You can't afford not to. Connect online with Flex Execs at flexexecs.com or call 630-655-0563 and ask for Chris Swanson or Karen Murphy. Flex Execs, moving business at the speed of trust. Call 630-655-0563 or visit them online at flexexecs.com.
If medications haven't helped you treat your depression, why haven't you tried TMS therapy offered by Theramind? Now there is a way to successfully treat your depression without the need for meds and their harmful side effects. TMS therapy is covered by most insurance, including Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois and Medicare. Don't continue to suffer needlessly. Call Theramind. Don't wait. Call Theramind now. 847-562-5868. The single greatest advancement to date in treating depression is TMS. It's an FDA-cleared, non-drug, safe, and effective treatment. TMS has already changed the lives of over 50,000 patients. Why not you? Visit TMSmind.com. Depression can be beaten, and without drugs. Call Theramind today, 847-562-5868, or get more info at TMSmind.com. That's Theramind at 847-562-5868, or online at TMSmind.com.
Congratulations to all who took the Balance of Nature New Year's Challenge. Success stories are pouring in. So many people have been helped through this incentive that I have asked Balance of Nature to continue this challenge for as long as possible.
I do feel slightly better. I can't explain it. It's like underlying. I can't explain it. I broke my leg twice, my left leg, and it used to bother me, but now it's not bothering me that much. I mean, you know, I also bowl on Friday nights. I mean, it used to kill me, but now I find that I could do that and without being in any discomfort.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
If you or someone you know is addicted to drugs or alcohol, this could be the most important message of your life. Write down this number or store it in your cell phone. But call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. By calling the treatment helpline for drug and alcohol addiction, you can turn your life around. Our advisors will match you with a proven 5-star luxury treatment center that will end your drug or alcohol addiction once and for all. Your future can still be bright. When you call right now, you'll speak to a recovering addict who understands what you're going through. Let us help you break your addiction to drug or alcohol before it's too late. This call is completely confidential, and if you have private insurance, there should be no cost to you. Take 5 minutes of your time and call right now. It may change your life for the better. Call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. Call 1-800-426-6186.
Coming up after we check the headlines with Mike Scott, do you expect to realize a 15,000% return on the money you put in your 401k? If you don't, you must not be a Chicago public school teacher. We'll discuss the state Supreme Court's ruling on another pension reform measure and public sector pensions more generally. That's at 6:06. But now let's go to the newsroom and get a check of the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Kristen, here are the stories we're watching right now. The latest on the Brussels investigations and a new angle in Paris with Fox News in just a moment. Area police are investigating a Skokie homicide, and a great Chicago comedian is dead at the age of 66. WIND Chicago News Times, 6 o'clock.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Dave Anthony. 2 Americans are among the 31 dead in the Belgian bombings.
The United States, I want you to know, is praying and grieving with you for the loved ones of those who have been very cruelly taken from us, including Americans.
Secretary of State John Kerry visiting Brussels, vowing to defeat ISIS. Suspects have been rounded up in terror raids in Brussels, where Fox's Jessica Gallagher is live.
Police here have carried out a series of anti-terror raids in search of suspects connected to Tuesday's triple bombings. One of the raids was carried out in Jet, a sleepy, quiet neighborhood to the north of Brussels. 2 other suspects were captured here in Brussels and 3 others outside the federal prosecutor's office. Belgian newspaper Die Morgen identifying 28-year-old Syrian Naim al-Hamad as another suspect being sought. Prosecutors have yet to comment. Belgium is in its 3rd and final day of mourning. Dave.
Now, Jessica, there was also a raid outside Paris, a Frenchman detained with links to the Paris attacks. Ringleader said to be in the advanced planning stages of a new terror plot. A week and a half before the next Republican primary in Wisconsin, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are warring over their wives. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, Trump and Cruz have been having late-night Twitter fights over viral pictures of their wives, an old photo of a scantily clad Melania Trump, and a less than flattering image of Heidi Cruz. The feud devolved into this statement from an incensed Ted Cruz at a Wisconsin factory.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Trump says he didn't start it, saying Cruz knew a super PAC was putting out the picture of Melania Trump. An anti-Trump super PAC has been running an ad featuring women reciting derogatory comments made by the billionaire. Dave.
Rachel, the Stones have rolled into Cuba. The band has arrived. They're ready to play a free outdoor concert today in Cuba. The Stones formed as a band in 1962, the same year as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Cloudy and 31 degrees, winds north at 10 at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A baby boy is safe. His mother was found dead in her apartment in Skokie. Police now are looking for that boy's father, Jermaine Powell, connected with the crime. Catherine Benjamin was found dead yesterday morning in a home in the 8200 block of Keating Avenue. An Ohio woman has been sentenced to 15 years in prison in the death of a Catholic high school teacher in a suburban Chicago home. Thursday's sentencing hearing found Cook County Circuit Judge James Obish dismissing Alicia Walker's contention at trial. She acted in self-defense when she stabbed 61-year-old Brother Rice high school teacher Al Filan to death. The 23-year-old claims she acted in self-defense after Filan became angry and grabbed a knife when she and another prostitute refused to have unprotected sex with him. The city of Chicago will have to find a new way to afford its $450 million a year pension payment after the Illinois Supreme Court yesterday struck down a reform package that had some city workers and retirees paying more for their retirement benefits. The Illinois Supreme Court also dealt unionized state workers a major setback Thursday, ruling the state does not have to pay them raises they are owed if lawmakers did not appropriate that money. Chicago-born comedian Gary Shandling is dead at the age of 66. Los Angeles police say he died yesterday at an area hospital of what appears to be natural causes. An actor and producer as well. He starred in the Showtime sitcom The Gary Shandling Show. He's also a regular guest host on The Tonight Show, subbing for Johnny Carson. Cook County lost more people than any other county in America last year. New census numbers show a huge uptick in people fleeing Chicago and its surrounding communities. More than 10,000 people, more than half from Chicago itself, left between 2014 and 2015. Derrick Rose had 30, but the Knicks won the game, 106-94 over the Bulls. The news service of Business Outfitters by Land's End. There's an old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's true. Business Outfitters by Land's End makes it easier than ever to look your best, so you always make a great impression. Business Outfitters by Land's End. They supply confidence. Shop now at business.landsend.com. 6:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Sean Hannity warns of a third-party challenge.
The Washington Post today is claiming that a group of, quote, conservative leaders got together this morning to plot a third-party challenge if Donald Trump gets the nomination. I would argue, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is a death wish. This is a plan to help elect Hillary. This is a circular firing squad.
The Sean Hannity Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, getting a new iPhone? Listen up. Every 2 seconds, one of us will accidentally break our phone. So, protecting and insuring your phone and your family, that's a smart idea. But if you have insurance from one of those big cell phone companies, you're paying way too much. So stop overpaying for insurance through carriers, and you can switch to Square Trade Phone Protection today, and you'll start saving hundreds of dollars. Verizon and Sprint can charge as much as $11 a month for phone insurance. For a family of 4, that's $44 a month, plus up to $199 deductible when you break your phone. Now, Square Trade Phone Protection is less than $5 a month. A family of 4, guess what? You can save over $500 a year. So protect your new iPhone or smartphone with Square Trade and stop overpaying for phone protection and protect all the phones in your family and visit squaretrade.com. Squaretrade.com.
Square Trade does not cover lost or stolen items. Savings based on 2-year iPhone plan with 1 claim compared to Assyrian total equipment coverage as of August 10, 2015.
6:06 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. The latest this morning with Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. On the eastbound Adams Tollway, traffic is stop and go from before Bussey to the Des Plaines Oasis, where a crash has 2 left lanes blocked now. Inbound ride a little heavy from the Stevenson to 18th. Just a 1 or 2 minute delay there. 394 southbound has reopened. Steger to Richmond Road after an earlier crash. The other expressways and tollways look great. Metra is operating an early getaway schedule for Good Friday. With more outbound trains early in the afternoon, fewer later. And basketball traffic on the west side this evening with the NCAA tournament at the United Center. Traffic is a service of Business Outfitters by Land's End. There's an old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's true. Business Outfitters by Land's End makes it easier than ever to look your best, so you always make a great impression. Business Outfitters by Land's End. They supply confidence. Shop now at business.landsend.com. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the AirComfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Here's meteorologist Kevin Snyder.
A mostly sunny day today with a high of 46. Then tonight it will become partly cloudy with a low of 32. For tomorrow, some sun to start the day. Then we will see clouds increasing. High getting up to 57. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
30 at O'Hare, 32 along Chicago's lakefront. Your next news update is at 6:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy. Kristen McQuarrie of the Chicago Tribune editorial board sitting in for Amy now on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Aging Info Radio. Heard Sunday mornings at 9, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning. Welcome to your Friday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
The advanced person who let him do the tango, that person ought to be looking for work on somebody's, in somebody's campaign very, very far away. That was a tremendous mistake. It's fine to go to Argentina. You want to do the work, but you've got to be careful of these little photo ops for optics, baseball games and tangos.
Back at home, turning now to the race for president and a furious Ted Cruz unleashing today on Donald Trump after the Republican frontrunner fanned the flames in the war over their wives on social media.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Nobody respects women more than I do.
I see him in life. He treats women the same as men.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
I cherish women.
Good morning, Dan, and I cherish Kristen McQuarrie, Chicago Tribune editorial board member, who is sitting in for Amy, who I also cherish, but who is at Mass all day today, repenting in advance of the coming of our Lord.
We're getting dispensation later from Sister Jean, right?
That's right. And, well, I mean, we're Catholics, and we don't have to, practice the faith or believe it. I mean, the president of Notre Dame University doesn't believe the faith. Father Jenkins doesn't practice Catholicism, so, it's whatever.
It's cafeteria, pick and choose.
Yeah. By the way, thank you, though. On another matter, these are divinely inspired. These Girl Scout cookies you brought in. Are you going to win the trip this year?
No, I don't think so. Although we do end up just buying most of my daughter's when she sells Girl Scout cookies. We're her biggest customer.
I'd buy some. The Thin Mints, they go right up to my hips, though. So I got to be careful.
You have an entire roll of them over there. So take it easy.
I do temporarily.
Right.
Because
I'll keep updating during the show.
We in the business, we call it a sleeve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a sleeve of cookies.
A sleeve of cookies.
And then there's a sleeve of cookies that were. Before we get into pensions and this Illinois State Supreme Court ruling, Gary Shandling.
Yeah.
I love Gary Shandling. Everybody thinks Gary Shandling and they think Larry Sanders Show, and it was excellent. That was, a great show, a forerunner to a lot of the sitcoms like 30 Rock that followed it. But I remember, do you remember It's Gary Shandling Show? This is the theme to Gary Show. The theme to Gary Show. Gary called me up and asked if I would write his theme song. I'm almost halfway finished. How do you like it so far? How do you like the theme to Gary Show?
please.
This is the theme to Gary Show. Do you get it?
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
This is the music that you hear as you watch the credits. That was a great show. Did you remember that show?
I really don't. I remember him more as a stand-up comedian, and then, he was asked, I think, to host the Emmys or some of those programs
he did
once
that.
in a while.
And he subbed for Johnny Carson, the greatest.
He was offered, I think, either a chance to audition to replace him or offered the spot and said no because he was too involved in his show. If you have not heard of this, you have to see this piece of tape, which is really kind of chilling. He is great friends with Jerry Seinfeld. And Jerry Seinfeld has this thing called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah, right. I've seen
They
that.
filmed that very recently with Gary, and Gary talks about the shock at learning that Robin Williams passed away. He talks about and jokes about what sort of arrangements he would want at his own funeral. It's sad, and they were really good friends, and in the episode, they go back to this comedy club where they've got their start in Los Angeles. So I just tweeted it out under State House Chick, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Well, Shandling was 66. I mean, so he was not, gosh, he doesn't seem like he was 66, but I guess
That's
that
young,
means I'm
Dan.
aging. I know it is.
Right.
I know.
It's young.
But, and there was no, initially when it came over the transom yesterday, there wasn't an indication of cause of death, but then I've seen some reports that suggested it was a heart attack, so. Well, rest in peace, Gary Shandling. Great. Thanks for the laughs. He was a great comedian. I actually really enjoyed his work, and not just the stand-up work, but and it's rare when you have not a lot of stand-ups cross over and do like really good. You sometimes do popular sitcoms, but like really good, groundbreaking sitcom work. And Shandling, with I think both Gary Shandling Show and Larry Sanders Show did so. All right, on to more serious matters. They'd be comic if it wasn't coming out of our pocket. Yesterday, the Illinois State Supreme Court struck down yet another modest proposal to reform public sector pensions, this one offered by Tiny Dancer, and actually with the support of a couple of dozen public sector unions.
28.
Okay, more than a couple dozen. And this goes back again, just like the state law that was struck down by the high court in the state, that it diminishes the benefits for public sector workers by doing things like eliminating cost of living adjustments, which are really annuities because it's about 7 times the rate of inflation, as well as increasing contributions on the employee side. And so that's unconstitutional.
It was really, the city kept making the case that their case before the Supreme Court was going to be different than the state's because it would force the city to pay more into the fund. They argued that it would stabilize the funds by asking employees to pay more. And the city has been making and generally does make its statutorily required payments into the funds, unlike the state, which takes, holidays randomly. But the problem is the statutory requirements are never actually enough to pay out the benefits. And that's what the court ruled and tossed it.
Thus the $30 billion in unfunded police and fire pensions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
at the city level.
This is just the city. So Moody's, which, the city is already at junk status, even if the court had ruled in favor of upholding the pension law, Moody's said the state, the city's finances are in such shambles, it really wouldn't help raise our credit rating because we're looking at $20 billion across 4 funds.
Well, here's what I think we're looking at. I mean, the one silver lining, it seems to me, in the Supreme Court's decision yesterday was they seem to indicate for the first time that if you present an option where the employee has consideration in the arrangement, you can choose, kind of frankly like the Cullerton plan at the state level, that you can choose A or you can choose B. You can continue to enjoy the COLAs, cost of living allowances, increases. But you're capped at the total amount of salary eligible for pension, or you dispense with the COLAs and you're not capped, something like that. The Supreme Court seemed to indicate that if you presented a choice where the employee was making the choice between 2 competing paths, like the ones I just described, for example, then that would be constitutional.
I think the court was referencing that any sort of pension changes could be bargained. So that is something at the bargaining table, which is outside of the legislature passing a law like Cullerton's. Even Cullerton's, I think, in view of this decision and the 2 before it, you're offering employees two choices that diminish their benefits.
Well, right.
Either they don't get
Yes.
to keep the compounded COLA, or they keep it and it doesn't count toward their pensionable income. That is changing the rules of
Yeah.
the game. The court has been so. I mean, the sad truth of all of these decisions is that we are on the hook as a Chicago taxpayer, not just for the city, but for the county, the schools, the state. And what's the breaking point? I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but there's another story about how Chicago lost more population than any other major urban city. I mean, gee, why do you think that is? Why are people fleeing? Because we're looking at huge property tax
Because
increases.
the schools are too good? Because taxes are too low?
Right.
They don't feel like they're paying their fair share. Is that why you think they're leaving?
I think so.
Yeah. And but you're right. But even that little glimmer of hope, being able to collectively bargain to change the arrangements, the pension arrangements, even if that were to come to pass, this is bailing out the Titanic with a teaspoon.
Right.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in unfunded liabilities. Here's the thing. And public sector workers, I think many even, recognize that something has to change on a go-forward basis and that they're entitled to what they've earned, what they've accrued for days worked. And I agree with that. But going forward, here's the reality. You're not going to get those benefits. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in one of two ways. Either the system will collapse and you'll have lawyers on the side not of the public sector unions, get a federal bankruptcy judge to declare that state pension funds, for example, are not the state. And so while the state cannot go bankrupt, pension funds, when they run out of money to pay beneficiaries, they run out of money. Could happen. You need one federal bankruptcy judge to set the precedent for something like that. That's one. The other thing is mass layoffs. So, for the public sector union leadership, the bosses, the Karen Lewises of the world, who suggest, as she did yesterday, that the prospect of another Chicago teacher strike is the result of intolerable working conditions. She said when conditions become intolerable, that's when you strike. Intolerable. If you think your bosses, if you're a member of a public sector union, you work in the public sector, you think these union bosses are looking out for you by doing their Workers of the World Unite routine, like Karen Lewis, you think about the math here, especially teachers, good at math. You think about the math here, and you tell me how you think this is going to work out for your 30 years of retirement, if you're not already retired or you're not nearing retirement. Let me give you some numbers. It's from the Illinois Policy Institute. Total contributions and benefits for a 30-year career for Chicago city workers who have retired in the last 3 years. So this is 30 years of contributions to their pension.
Of probably between, 4 and 9%, I would guess?
Right. 30 years of contributions and what they paid in, what they will receive out, averages. Chicago public school teachers. The average contribution to their pension fund, 30 years as a Chicago public school teacher, $133,179. The average total benefits in retirement, $2.074922 million. $2.074 million. A 15,000% plus return on contributions in. If you were a private sector worker, do you know how much you would have to save to pay out, to see a $2 million payout?
350 years.
Well,
you'd have to live 350 years and be contributing 11%.
If you wanted a $2 million pension, you're the private sector worker, you would need to have contributed nearly $1.5 million. 15 times what the average contribution to the pension fund is for Chicago public school teachers. I'm just using this as an example because I'll go to police and fire, municipal and laborers. It's the same dynamics. It's not quite the multiple, but it's the same dynamics. Firefighter, average pension, Chicago firefighter, 30 years in, retires today. Average contributions to the pension fund, $146,000. Average total retirements and benefits, average total benefits and retirement, $1.995 million.
And a retirement age of 50. I think that's important. Public safety workers can retire if you're in Tier 1 at age 50. So that's a long life of continue. I mean, many of them go back to work, so they collect a pension and then they work a second job.
Chicago police, 147,463 average contributions in. Average total benefits out, $1.993 million. I mean, this is, and I don't anybody get me started in this idea that some people like police officers and firefighters and teachers and some people don't. It is silliness. It is childish, and I'm not going to indulge it, and nobody else should either. Respect the job that firefighters do and police officers do and teachers do and public sector workers do. I worked in the public sector. Nothing wrong with it.
But you have to preface your comments because you will get bullied as being a hater of teachers or fire police because you want to point out the math, but go ahead.
Yeah, but that's what this is. This is a math problem. And the funny thing is, I'm on the side of rank and file firefighters, police officers, teachers, state workers. They're not on their own side. Many of them are not. Because let me tell you something. If I was a 43-year-old state worker right now or teacher instead of a 43-year-old radio talk show host, and I'm looking at these numbers, you know what I'd be saying to myself? There is no way that I am going to get what I thought I was going to get when I started working here. And that's a reality that some people should come to and challenge their leadership about so that we can actually forge solutions on a go-forward basis that provide the ability to pay out what people have earned, but then also bend the cost curve going forward so that you don't wind up getting IOUs in the mail at some point during your retirement rather than checks.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Your forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, dropping down to 32. Tomorrow, some sunshine, giving way to clouds and a high of 57. Now a check of traffic with Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Kristen. In Skokie, McCormick is closed northbound from Howard to Oakton due to a crash there. The eastbound Adams Tollway has delays, Meacham to 53. And from Arlington Heights Road to before the Des Plaines Oasis, an earlier crash is cleared now. Inbound Eisenhower, you've got a 2-minute delay, First Avenue to Harlem. Inbound Orion, just a 1 or 2 minute delay from the Stevenson to 18th. The other expressways and tollways are pretty light. No significant delays. I'm Jim Talamonte of the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
Hey, if you need to sell your home in Chicagoland, Sean Hannity here with some very important facts that you need to know. Now, 40% of homes hitting the market in Chicago are not selling. Now, those are horrible odds. You need to call Saul Z and the Z team based right here in Chicagoland. Now, Saul sells a home on average every 24 hours and attracts hundreds of buyers every month locally, nationally, and internationally. The Wall Street Journal ranks Saul's team in the top 110 teams out of 1.2 million agents in the U.S. Now, Saul Z guarantees to sell your home in 29 days at a price and deadline that you agree to, or he will buy your home or he'll sell it for free. Plus, working with Saul is also risk-free. After 24 hours, if he's not doing his job, you can walk away free and clear. Just call the agent I would call if I needed to sell my home and lived in Chicagoland. Call Saul now at 888-346-0666. That's 888-346-0666. Or go online at callsaul.net. That's callsaul.net.
The following is a paid political announcement.
When did Republicans lose their backbone, their guts, their conviction? Some will say they stood up to Obama. That's easy. But who stood up to their own party? That's Marlin Stutzman. Marlin said no to the establishment by voting against John Boehner. And he fought sweetheart deals on both sides by voting against the omnibus. Because politicians refuse to get it done, Marlin authored the only conservative budget that actually balances. And to keep the Washington crowd from getting cozy, Marlin is fighting for term limits to toss the career politicians out. It's not good enough to just vote for candidates who say they're conservative. We need leaders who have the guts to act like one. Marlin knows when Republicans bend, America breaks. Stand strong, Marlin. Conservative Marlin Stutzman for Senate.
I'm Marlin Stutzman, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Stutzman for Senate.
The only significant, among all the vitamins I changed, nothing affected cholesterol. I took this and my cholesterol dropped by 15 or 20%.
Yeah, with the acid reflux, and I have GERD and gastritis, and it really seems to be helping a lot, and my husband too. I mean, we're very happy with the product, I got to say it. It's been great, and we've seen dramatic results, so I can't say anything bad about it. We've really been happy with the product. We've been amazed with it.
There is a value in it because it has fruits and veggies, and I'm not a fruit and veggies eater, and I know this is helpful.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, another Clinton is getting into the act of bashing Obama. This is fascinating. Fascinating week. Kristen, you'll note that Bill Clinton was in Spokane, Washington this week, and he was, of course, flacking for his wife. I mean, his wife.
Stop it.
And he had this to say about the last 8 years.
But if you believe we can all rise together, if you believe we've finally come to the point where we can put the awful legacy of the last 8 years behind us.
Does he know President Obama was president the last 8 years? I think he does.
I know I'm accused often of my tinfoil hat, but my initial reaction to that and to now Chelsea Clinton coming out and complaining about Obamacare is, Loretta Lynch, you better be careful, Clintons, right? I mean, if you view her as I do, as kind of possible firewall to protecting her from an actual indictment, Obama's appointee for Attorney General, you better tread lightly.
Well, see, I thought the Clinton thing, the Bill Clinton thing, could have just been a more symptomatic of kind of early onset syphilis. But I don't think that's the case with Chelsea. So I think there's something afoot here.
We don't know that.
Well, I don't know, but I don't think so. Chelsea talking about Obamacare, the vaunted, sainted Obamacare signature accomplishment of the regime.
Cap out-of-pocket expenses. This was part of my mom's original plan back in 93 and 94, as well as premium costs. We can either do that directly or through tax credits, and kind of figuring out whether she could do that through executive action or she would need to do that through tax credits working with Congress. She thinks either of those will help solve the challenge of kind of the crushing costs that still exist for too many people who even are part of the Affordable Care Act and buying insurance.
What? Crushing costs?
She sounds like a Republican.
Oh, boy.
She sounds like Paul Ryan. She sounds like Peter Roskam. She sounds like John Boehner.
She sounds like somebody who's looked at Obamacare, which just turned 6 this week. Investors Business Daily had a good op-ed on this. $55 billion in waste so far. So a little back of the envelope math. That's about wasting about just under $12 billion a year. That's not bad.
It's pocket change.
Yeah.
That's efficiency.
Oh, no, that's just under, wait, no, my back of the envelope math is off. That's just under like $10 billion in waste per year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great.
That's efficiency as far as the federal government goes.
This is the signature accomplishment that on this signature accomplishment, it's only wasting $10 billion of other people's money a year. But on the matters, the substance of the matter, 12 of the 23 nonprofit insurance co-ops established by Obamacare have failed. It's becoming increasingly likely they'll ever pay back the $1.2 billion in startup loans they got from taxpayers. It was our pleasure. Obamacare awarded a total of more than $5 billion in grants for states to set up state-run exchanges. About $729 million went to dozens of states that decided against building an exchange. And another $778 million went to exchanges that have since failed. So there's another $1.5 billion. Again, it was our pleasure to try. After spending more than $2 billion to construct healthcare.gov, it failed at launch and is still unfinished. It was supposed to be self-financed, but Obama now wants an additional $500 million to keep it running just for next year. Insurance bailouts, big bad insurance companies, well, they're getting $3.5 billion worth of cash meant for Treasury to help cover the losses insurance companies have suffered from Obamacare. So getting bailed out by the federal government, the big insurance companies that big government pretends not to like.
Getting bailed out by us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how about when those?
The
how
government
about,
is us. That's
how
right.
about when the match starts rolling back in 2020, and you have all these people in Illinois, in particular, where we're already $4 or $5 billion behind in paying Medicaid, and now it's coming. It's going to come up quickly, where the federal government's not going to match anymore.
I can't wait to see the rest of this primary between the Obamas and the Clintons. This is getting good.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Kelly Mickley from Executive Green Carpet Cleaning. Our family started serving homes and businesses in the Chicagoland area 25 years ago because we knew there was a better way. Let us show you what clean really looks like. With our unique system that uses purified water, your carpet will look brighter, stay cleaner longer, and will be dry in just a few hours. I guarantee you will be completely satisfied or you don't pay. That is my promise to you. Our green certified products are safe for your family and pets. Schedule your appointment online today at executivegreencarpetcleaning.com. This month, we are offering our radio listeners 3 rooms for $139, plus a free bottle of spot cleaner. Again, schedule online on your time when it's convenient for you at executivegreencarpetcleaning.com or call us at 708-599-5151. That's 708-599-5151. Give your carpet the executive treatment with Executive Green Carpet Cleaning.
Over half a century ago, a respected firearms store opened. It started as a hobby to Mike Schrank and has now served generations of customers. Schrank's Smoke and Gun retains a family atmosphere and now carries the largest selection of new, used, and consignment firearms in Lake County. From pistols, rifles, and shotguns to hard-to-find calibers, collectibles, and older functioning hunting rifles, you'll also find full gunsmith services from simple detail cleaning to complete rebuilds. Whether you're thinking about your first firearm and a FOID card or looking to add your collection, that's me. Visit Schrank Smoke and Gun. If you have a firearm to sell, their sale was so successful they need your firearms. And if you love cigars, that's me. You'll find your favorites in Schrank's humidors along with a broad selection of pipes and tobacco. Visit smoke, the letter N, gun.org or call 847-662-4034. Schrank Smoke and Gun in Waukegan, your family-owned gun store since 1964. The number, 847-662-4034. And coming up, Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, the chaplain to Loyola University's athletic teams, and a bracketologist. We'll get her take on the NCAA tourney and other matters divine and religious at 6:36. But now let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Kristen, good morning. 30 degrees. Officials saying a man detained in a counter-terror raid in a Paris suburb yesterday has connections to the suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks. French officials identify him as a 34-year-old man, Reda Cricket, who had been wanted since January. Authorities in Belgium continue hunting for 2 others involved in Tuesday's bombings that left 34 dead and 250 hurt. 6 have been arrested so far in wide-ranging anti-terror raids overnight. 2 Americans are among the nearly 3 dozen killed in the Brussels bombings. U.S. official confirming that to NBC News today. Secretary of State John Kerry is in Brussels for counter-terror talks and paid his respects to the victims of this week's attacks.
The United States, I want you to know, is praying and grieving with you for the loved ones of those who have been very cruelly taken from us, including Americans, and for the many who were injured.
The victims' names are not officially being released because their families are still being notified. Baby boy is safe after his mother was found dead in an apartment in Skokie. Now police are looking for the boy's father, Jermaine Powell. City of Chicago will have to find a new way to afford its $450 million a year pension payment after the Illinois Supreme Court yesterday struck down a reform package that had some city workers and retirees paying a little more for retirement benefits. Wrigley Field stepping up security. Metal detectors will be added at all gates, in addition to bag checks for opening night, April 11. Chicago-born comedian Gary Shandling is dead at the age of 66, and longtime television and movie actor Peter Brown is dead at the age of 80. It's one of those faces that you'll recognize, but never really played as a star. He played Deputy Johnny McKay in the 60s Western show Lawman. He also went on to play reoccurring roles in major soaps like Days of Our Lives and The Young and the Restless, as well as major guest shots on Magnum P.I. Chicago sports, Knicks over the Bulls, 106-94. L.A. over the White Sox in spring training baseball, while the Cubs beat San Francisco. NCAA tournament action. Villanova was a winner over Miami. The Jayhawks over Maryland. Oklahoma ousted Texas A&M. And Oregon eliminates Duke. The news service of Compassion International. Never thought of yourself as a hero? That's what you'll be for a child in poverty when you become a sponsor with Compassion International. To find out how you can release a child from poverty, go to compassion.com/radio. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager has figured out the Trump strategy.
What he does is he comes in like a bulldozer, and anything in its way is shattered, and then is calm and is given tremendous kudos for his calmness. So he has, even if you're a supporter, you have to acknowledge that this is a very effective thing for him.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560, The Answer.
Through Wheaton College Graduate School's modular MA in Intercultural Studies, you'll train with our globally connected community on the latest methods for careers in cross-cultural ministry. Apply at wheaton.edu/crosscultural.
Hi, folks. Dr. John Chavez, chiropractor in St. Charles, Illinois, here to thank WIND for helping a cause that's dear to me. I spent part of my childhood on food stamps, and WIND has partnered with Feed the Children, and I'm proud to be a part of their team. Now I have the greatest job in the world, meeting people who are in pain and helping them get their lives back, avoiding surgery and getting off pain meds. There's a time for pain medications, but they aren't without risk, and you shouldn't need them regularly because pain is a symptom telling you something's wrong. Don't just shut that alarm off. Fix the source, not the symptom. If this concept is familiar to you, you may already know a good chiropractor, and I hope you and that doctor work together to stay healthy and pain-free. Call my office at 630-715-9192. That's 715-9192. Or find me on the web at chirojon.com. That's chirojon.com.
6:37. Let's get an update on the roads in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. In Crown Point, there's a crash on Main Street, State Road 55 at 93rd Avenue. The Edens is clear right now. Kennedy and Bounceville, Cumberland to Foster. It's just a 3-minute delay. Outbound wide open. Inbound Eisenhower has a 2-minute slow pocket from First Avenue to Harlem. 31 minutes Thorndale to downtown. Outbound near Western Avenue, there's police activity on the right shoulder. Inbound Stevenson, 38 minutes, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 5 to 34. Ryan, 17 minutes, 95 to downtown. Adams Tollway eastbound, slow from Roselle to before Meacham. There's a crash in the right lane, then heavy Arlington Heights Road to the Des Plaines Oasis after an earlier crash. Traffic is a service of International Champions Cup Soccer. Experience world-class soccer when 25-time German champions Bayern Munich and Italian powerhouse AC Milan, July 27th, Soldier Field. Sign up for the exclusive pre-sale at internationalchampionscup.com before they go on sale April 5th. Don't miss it. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. From the aircomfort.com Weather Center, mostly sunny and 45 today. Partly cloudy and 32 overnight. 30 at O'Hare, winds north at 10. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy and Kristen McCreary of the Chicago Tribune editorial board. Sitting in for Amy now on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Ayn Rand Institute and the Yaron Brook Show. Heard Saturday afternoons at 4 here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, don't be caught without the facts. Listen to me, Sean Hannity, this afternoon at 2, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan, and sitting in for Amy, as Mike Scott just mentioned, Kristen McCreary from the Chicago Tribune editorial board. Kristen will be repenting for her sins later, as will I, on this Good Friday.
It takes hours.
There's no question. Days for me. But someone who has been a great servant leader in the Chicago community is Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, a member of the Loyola University Chicago community since 1961. She is the chaplain to Loyola University's athletic teams, but more importantly, she is a noted bracketologist. Jay Billis has nothing on her.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Williams has nothing on her. Seth Greenberg, Dick Vitale, nothing on Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt. And I want to see how I'm doing compared to Sister Jean in the pool and the NCAA tourney brackets this year, because I couldn't afford the buy-in to her pool. So I couldn't participate in her pool. I had to do some others. We are pleased to be joined by Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt. Sister, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, good morning. I'm glad to be there. And you can just call me Sister Jean. The whole name doesn't fit on the computer anymore.
Well, you are correct. Yes, you must be looking at my call screen. She's got the third eye. So, Sister Jean, I know that you always make news with your NCAA picks, and so I wonder how you're doing so far, and who you have as winning it all.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for that big compliment, putting me up there with all those big names. But,
yes.
But I do mine very simply compared to what they do. Well, I tell you, for the Sweet 16, I have to say had because I lost a few. Kansas, Maryland, Oregon, Villanova, Duke. I did have Texas A&M in there, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Virginia,
of course,
and Gonzaga.
Okay, but
Notre Dame got that on their merit, though, not on my.
Okay, but now last night, Kansas, Maryland, who'd you have?
Last night, I had Kansas winning, and they did.
She's got me there. I had Maryland. That was my upset in the Sweet 16. I had Maryland knocking out Kansas, so now you've probably pulled ahead of me in the pool.
I hope so.
Right.
Anyhow,
she's very competitive.
I understand.
Anyhow, Kansas didn't play too well in the beginning. I was wondering about them because they seemed a little sluggish. But that's what some of those major teams do. They wear out the other team first and then pick up. So,
Coach, yes. Sister Jean.
Sister Jean James Naismith.
Right. Sister Jean, what are some of the most exciting players or teams that you're watching this tournament?
Well, whether they win or lose, I like watching all of them. And, of course, because our Loyola is in the Missouri Valley, I especially liked watching the game with Wichita State played.
Yeah.
And, of course, UNI. And UNI should not have lost that game. Those students must just be devastated.
Epic collapse. Sister Jean, do you think if you could get Alfredrick Hughes to come back to Loyola could make the tournament again?
We're aiming toward that. It takes a long time. It's taking us a long time. It's like 51 years, 52 years now. So, but we're working toward it. And
where does your love of basketball come from?
My love? Well, when I was in high school, I played, but I'm not going to talk about how we played because women's basketball at that time is so different from today, nobody recognizes it. But anyhow, and then when I taught the elementary school, I coached the girls' basketball team, and then when the coach couldn't come for the men's, then I used to do something with the boys, too, in elementary school. Then I came to Loyola, to Mundelein first in 1961, and always went to the games at Mundelein and then over to the games at Loyola. So I've just had a love for it all my life, and that doesn't come from my family. They're mostly football fans. I'm a basketball fan.
I see. And I'm sorry, who do you have winning the tournament this year?
Kansas.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got North Carolina, so I can catch you, sister.
I know. You know what? Because the websites keep saying it could be North Carolina. So we'll just have to wait and see. And we have to take the human factor into it, too. That's what all the other bracketologists, I don't think, do. Get that human factor in there to think, well, somebody could get hurt.
Sure.
Like that California guy who broke his hand just before they played. Hawaii.
Wasn't Fred Van Fleet was also sick, wasn't he? And that's contributed
Wichita
to
State
Wichita.
loss. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, the community of bracketologists with Sister Jean lives in, the order of bracketologists, if you will.
And so for my final 8, my Elite 8, of course I still have Kansas and Villanova and Oregon in there because they've all won. So tonight I'll be watching to see what North Carolina and Virginia and Gonzaga do. I lost Oklahoma a long time ago.
You didn't have Oklahoma going to the Elite 8?
No, I did not.
And you call yourself a bracketologist?
No, I don't call myself that.
Sister, you have seen Buddy Hield play. How did you not see that Buddy Hield would put that Sooners basketball team on his shoulders and carry them triumphantly at least to the Final Four?
Well, I don't have them in the Final Four either.
Yeah,
of course, I lost them. But that VCU has been so good, I thought I'll give them a chance. It's just like I said to Hawaii. I took Hawaii over California. And I don't depend on seed 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. When I do my brackets, I start with the ones I think are going to win, the winner, the Final Four, and maybe the Elite 8. And I go to the extreme ends and move all the smaller schools out that got there sometimes by chance. Good playing, but against a hard team.
Well, sure, you have to rely on the scouting that you've done all season, all your scouting reports.
and then I take and list them according to their RPIs.
Oh, the power rankings, yes, of course.
Yeah, and
it's only sensible.
That to me is more exact, not always exact, but I figured Hawaii didn't have the chance to play all those larger, harder schools to increase their points in the SOS. So that's why I gave them a chance.
I think Sister Jean needs to go next year to Dan Proff's, the party where you pick all your teams, right?
Yeah.
And you sit around for 6 or 7 hours. And
I think we should have a show. I think we should have a sports radio show, Sister Jean, you and I. What do you think about that?
That'll be fine. All
right,
we
good.
Can do that.
I'll talk to my agent about that. We'll see what we can do. Maybe flip the format here. And Sister Jean, can people sign up for your scouting reports? Do you have a blog?
No, I don't have a blog and I don't have Facebook.
Oh.
But that's okay. I think about everybody has mine because it's been on channels and projected and so forth.
And now, when all the money that you win in your various polls, I assume you tithe to the church.
Listen, I can't bet because I belong partly to the athletic department, and NCAA doesn't permit betting.
Oh, okay, Sister Jean, thank you for the pro forma statement. It's between you and me. Say no more. We don't have to get into it. I completely understand. Here's one other thing I'd like you to consider, Sister Jean. Chris Collins could use the recruiting help at Northwestern so they can make the tournament someday for the first time in the school's history. So if you'd reach out to Chris Collins up there in Evanston, as an alum, I'd certainly appreciate it.
All right. I'll think about that.
All right. She is Sister Jean, chaplain to Loyola University Chicago's athletic teams, and noted bracketologist. Sister Jean, thanks so much for joining us. Have a happy and blessed Easter.
And you too, Dan and Kirsten. Thank you so much.
And that's Sister Jean joining us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
your forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 32. Tomorrow, sunshine giving way to clouds, and we climb up to 57 degrees. Now we'll do a check of traffic with Jim Talamonte.
Thank you, Kristen and Dan. On this Good Friday, as you might expect, traffic is much lighter than usual. Metro will have an early getaway scheduled today. More trains will leave downtown early in the afternoon, but fewer will run later. Edens is clear. Kennedy inbound, slow Cumberland to Foster. 23 minutes, O'Hare to downtown. Outbound Fond at 20. The Eisenhower has just a 2-minute inbound delay. First Avenue to Harlem. The outbound Ike is clear. Stevenson, 38 minutes, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive. The Ryan, 17 minutes, 95th to downtown. Outbound Fond at 15. Eastbound Adams Tollway is slow from Roselle to before Meacham with a crash in the right lane. The other tollways are delay-free. Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
I'm Lou Dobbs. We're awaiting a revised estimate of fourth quarter GDP. Google's close to pulling the plug on robots, and Volkswagen gets more time to clean up its act. Those stories next.
Tax problems? They only get worse if you don't do anything. Are you an individual or business that owes at least $10,000 in back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns? Don't risk garnishments or levies on your wages, bank accounts, or accounts receivable. Call Rapid Resolution Tax Group now. They're Better Business Bureau A+ rated and accredited. Tax attorneys, enrolled agents, tax professionals, and they guarantee same-day contact with the IRS. No tax problem is too big. They've helped many people just like you with their tax problems. Pick up the phone and call 800-601-2929 now. If you qualify, Rapid Resolution Tax Group can settle your tax debt for less, remove penalties and fees, stop garnishments and levies. You may even qualify for the IRS Fresh Start Initiative. You do have rights as an American. Don't let your tax problems get worse. Call Rapid Resolution Tax Group for a free consultation at 800-601-2929. That's 800-601-2929. Call now.
Markets closed this Good Friday, but we'll have a revised fourth quarter GDP estimate expected to remain unchanged at a plus 1% annual rate. Google parent Alphabet is reportedly getting out of the robotics business and could sell Boston Dynamics. Sources say there isn't a big enough non-military market for the walking robots the company's been developing. A federal judge giving Volkswagen and regulators one more month to come up with a plan to bring some 600,000 diesel cars into compliance with U.S. clean air laws. The Securities and Exchange Commission has sided with shareholders in their request to force ExxonMobil to disclose how a 2-degree target limit on global warming would affect its business. Please join me for Lou Dobbs tonight, 7 and 11 Eastern on the Fox Business Network. This is the Lou Dobbs Financial Report.
Life's full of unknowns, some unpleasant, like an unexpected accident or work injury that can happen to any of us. When the unexpected happens, you need an experienced and capable law firm that excels in personal injury and workers' compensation and can garner you an excellent settlement. With a combined 75 years experience, Feed the Children business benefactor Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski share your values and take pride in their friendly, professional approach. Personal injury and workers' compensation matters can take a toll on you. That's why Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski strive to treat clients like family and provide a quick response to your questions. You'll always speak with an attorney. Call Stordo, Finn, and Rosinski, the People's Lawyer, for your free initial consultation at 630-860-5520 or visit peopleslawyer.info. That's 630-860-5520 or online at peopleslawyer.info.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. AM 560 On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Kristen McQuarrie in for Amy this morning. And Kristen, people are fleeing the University of Missouri like they're fleeing Cook County, largest exodus of any county in the nation last year. Wonder why that is. In Missouri, the reason is because of the same thing. They're stuck on stupid, bad policies, just like here in Chicago. Missouri, kind of the Chicago version of a university. And now they're doubling down. They've lost 1,500 students since all the unrest there and the football teams boycotting and whatnot. And they're $32 million in deficit for next fiscal year's budget. And here's this. The College of Arts and Sciences at Mizzou announced this week undergraduates will now have to complete a 3-credit-hour course of diversity and 3 credit hours of diversity-intensive courses in order to graduate. Diversity-intensive, or as we say in academia, DI courses.
Sure.
They got an acronym now.
Right.
3 credit hours of diversity-intensive courses in order to get your diploma from Missouri. It's building on decades of student activism and the work of diversity committees. Oh, my goodness.
But they're going to learn about cultural appropriation. For example, which Halloween costumes are offensive and which you are allowed to wear and which you aren't. Don't dress up as a geisha. Don't dress up as a taco. Those are some of the examples.
Yeah, it's important.
That they gave, just like the New York State University, where they had like a hotline you could call, 6 different faculty members to answer your questions to make sure you weren't wearing something culturally offensive.
And you have how many children?
2.
And how many are going to University of Missouri? 0.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
The following is a paid political announcement.
When did Republicans lose their backbone, their guts, their conviction? Some will say they stood up to Obama. That's easy. But who stood up to their own party? That's Marlin Stutzman. Marlin said no to the establishment by voting against John Boehner. And he fought sweetheart deals on both sides by voting against the omnibus. Because politicians refuse to get it done, Marlin authored the only conservative budget that actually balances. And to keep the Washington crowd from getting cozy, Marlin is fighting for term limits to toss the career politicians out. It's not good enough to just vote for candidates who say they're conservative. We need leaders who have the guts to act like one. Marlin knows when Republicans bend, America breaks. Stand strong, Marlin. Conservative Marlin Stutzman for Senate.
I'm Marlin Stutzman, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Stutzman for Senate.
Hey, let me introduce you to my really good friends at Guardian Security Services. Talk about passion. Man, these guys get it. They provide on-site security officers to a wide variety of businesses in Chicagoland. Gated communities, colleges, financial institutions, you name it. Guardian Security Officers are on-site forming lasting relationships. They're so passionate about exceptional service, their client retention ratio is over 95%, and they just celebrated 41 years in Chicago. They thoroughly screen every applicant, typically only accepting 5 out of 100 officers. They hire the best, so you have the best. Easy to reach and backed by a 24-hour service center and exceptional training. If you're unhappy with your on-site security or door staff or anticipate a need in the future, man, contact Guardian Security Services. Tell them Joe Walsh sent you. Call right now, 708-385-3300. That's 708-385-3300.
If you or someone you know is addicted to drugs or alcohol, this could be the most important message of your life. Write down this number or store it in your cell phone. But call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. By calling the treatment helpline for drug and alcohol addiction, you can turn your life around. Our advisors will match you with a proven 5-star luxury treatment center that will end your drug or alcohol addiction once and for all. Your future can still be bright. When you call right now, you'll speak to a recovering addict who understands what you're going through. Let us help you break your addiction to drug or alcohol before it's too late. This call is completely confidential, and if you have private insurance, there should be no cost to you. Take 5 minutes of your time and call right now. It may change your life for the better. Call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. Call 1-800-426-6186.
Coming up, Trump and Cruz continue the war of words over wives. That's at 7:07. But first, let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Kristen and Dan, here are the stories we're following right now. Police investigating a Skokie homicide. Chicago pension reform struck down. Wrigley Field adding metal detectors for opening day. And the Knicks sweep a home-and-home with the Bulls. Sunny day ahead. I-45, WIND, Chicago News Time is 7 o'clock.
Fox News Radio, I'm Dave Anthony.
I offer our deepest condolences to the people of Belgium and to all of the families.
Secretary of State John Kerry in Brussels as the U.S. says 2 Americans are among the 31 killed in the Brussels terror attacks. The family of a brother and sister who are living in New York has confirmed they're among the dead. They were on a phone call with family at the airport when a bomb went off, and then the line fell silent. There were terror raids in Belgium. Fox's Jessica Gallagher live in Brussels.
Dave, at least 6 people have been arrested in terror raids here. I went to the sleepy northern suburb of Jet, where one of the arrests was made. The tree-lined, quiet area is full of row houses and parks. Soldiers with machine guns and camouflage could be seen patrolling the streets. 2 other arrests were made in Brussels. 3 others were arrested outside the federal prosecutor's office as well. Prosecutors say 3 other arrest warrants could be issued today. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting the brothers who blew themselves up in Tuesday's blast, Khalid and Brahim El-Bakraoui, were on U.S. government terrorism watch list. Dave.
Jessica, there was also a raid in a Paris suburb detaining someone said to have ties to the Paris terror attacks ringleader.
And in his apartment, they are reported to have found Kalashnikov's handguns and a quantity of explosives, very similar to explosives that were retrieved in terror raids in Brussels.
Sky News' and Brady, a body's been found in Indiana, matching the description of a 1-year-old girl missing since Wednesday morning. A family acquaintance is in police custody.
All I can say right now is I hope he burns in hell.
That's Shaylin Ammerman's uncle. A small Minnesota community is a ghost town. All 230 residents in Callaway remain evacuated after a propane truck had a fiery collision with a freight train.
Red Cross, Salvation Army, everybody here helping out, help the people that are the first responders and also the people of the towns that are truly being affected.
Minnesota State Patrol Sergeant Jesse Graybo, 2 crew members on the train were injured. Some of those cars went off the tracks. They'll let the propane keep burning off. Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
30 degrees, cloudy skies in Chicago. 7:02 is our time on AM 560, The Answer, on this Good Friday. I'm Mike Scott. A baby boy is safe. His mother, however, found dead in her apartment in Skokie. And now police this morning say they're looking for the boy's father, Jermaine Powell, connected with that crime. Catherine Benjamin was found dead yesterday morning at a home in the 8200 block of Keating Avenue. Her 10-month-old son was then dropped off at a local church by a man who police say matched Powell's description. The city of Chicago will have to find a new way to afford its $450 million a year pension payment. The Illinois Supreme Court yesterday striking down a reform package that had some city workers and retirees paying more for their retirement benefits. The Illinois Supreme Court also dealt unionized state workers a major setback, ruling Thursday the state does not have to pay them raises that they are owed if lawmakers did not appropriate the money. Wrigley Field stepping up security. Metal detectors are being added at gates. In addition to bag checks already in place, metal detectors will be up by opening night, April 11. Chicago's DuSable Museum of African American History has been granted an affiliation status by the Smithsonian Institution. The distinction announced yesterday gives the museum access to Smithsonian artifacts and traveling exhibits. The DuSable is the second Chicago facility to receive a Smithsonian affiliate status, joining the Adler Planetarium. Chicago sports, Derrick Rose had 30, but the Knicks took it to the Bulls again, 106-94, winning a home-and-home set with our Bulls. Baseball spring training, Angels over the White Sox 6-5. Cubs over San Francisco 16-14. A little troubling, though. Jake Arrieta left in the first with a blistered thumb. Villanova shot 62%. They eliminate Miami from the NCAA tournament. The Jayhawks win their 17th straight, beating Maryland 79-63. Buddy Hield had 17 in Oklahoma's win over Texas A&M. And the Sooners now play West number 1 seed Oregon, which eliminated Duke 82-68. The news, a service of Unbound. When you sponsor through Unbound, you not only open the door to education for a young person, you empower a family to build a foundation of financial stability. See your contribution grow into opportunity at unbound.org. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Sean Hannity warns of a third-party challenge.
The Washington Post today is claiming that a group of, quote, conservative leaders got together this morning to plot a third-party challenge if Donald Trump gets the nomination. I would argue, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is a death wish. This is a plan to help elect Hillary. This is a circular firing squad.
The Sean Hannity Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
CertaPro painters are here for every stage of your life, from moving into a new home, creating the ideal nursery, to reinventing your living space. CertaPro painting experts create the perfect setting while you do life. They came to our home and brightened our walls and our moods so very quiet they wouldn't wake a baby. But the best part? They clean up after themselves so you don't have to do it. And now that spring is here, it is the perfect time to spruce up your home's exterior. Take a look at your home. Do you see chipping, peeling, fading? Well, leave it to CertaPro painting experts to refresh, renew, and protect your biggest investment, your home. Now is the time to call for your free estimate and schedule your exterior painting project. 1-800-GO-CERTA, 1-800-GOCERTA. That's CERTA with a C. Or visit CertaPro.com today. CertaPro.com. CertaPro painters, we do painting, you do life. Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated.
Hey, getting a new iPhone? Listen up. Every 2 seconds, one of us will accidentally break our phone. So, protecting and insuring your phone and your family, that's a smart idea. But if you have insurance from one of those big cell phone companies, you're paying way too much. So stop overpaying for insurance through carriers, and you can switch to Square Trade Phone Protection today, and you'll start saving hundreds of dollars. Verizon and Sprint can charge as much as $11 a month for phone insurance. For a family of 4, that's $44 a month, plus up to $199 deductible when you break your phone. Now, Square Trade Phone Protection is less than $5 a month. A family of 4, guess what? You can save over $500 a year. So protect your new iPhone or smartphone with Square Trade and stop overpaying for phone protection and protect all the phones in your family. And visit SquareTrade.com. SquareTrade.com.
Square Trade does not cover lost or stolen items. Savings based on 2-year iPhone plan with one claim compared to Assured and total equipment coverages of August 10, 2015.
7:07 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. Traffic's pretty light. Kennedy inbound. It is slow Nagel to Central, but it's just 23 minutes. O'Hare to downtown. Outbound fine at 20. Edens is delay-free this Good Friday. The Eisenhower just a little heavy between First Avenue and Harlem. No more than a 1-minute delay right now. The outbound Ike is clear. Mount Stevenson, slow Cicero to Kedzie and Cermak to Lakeshore Drive. 38 minutes, 3:55 to the drive. Outbound fine at 34. The inbound Ryan has a 4-minute delay from Stevenson into downtown. I-57, Bishop Ford, all clear. Same goes for Lakeshore Drive. Northbound Tri-State heavy from the Reagan Tollway to the Eisenhower. Eastbound Adams Tollway stop and go Roselle to be 4:53 after an earlier crash. Southbound Veterans Memorial at St. Charles, crash just reported. This has the roadway blocked right now at southbound 355. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the AirComfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Here's meteorologist Kevin Snyder.
Today, mostly sunny with a high 46. Tonight, partly cloudy, low 32. Some sun tomorrow, followed by clouds, high 57. Mostly cloudy at night, low 42. Mostly cloudy with showers, Easter Sunday, high of 53. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
We have clearing skies and 30 at O'Hare. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Theramind. Successful drug-free treatment for depression. Insurance accepted. Go to tmsmind.com.
Good morning. Welcome to your Friday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
The advanced person who let him do the tango, that person ought to be looking for work on somebody's, in somebody's campaign very, very far away. That was a tremendous mistake. It's fine to go to Argentina. You want to do the work, but you've got to be careful of these little photo ops for optics, baseball games and tangos.
Back at home, turning now to the race for president and a furious Ted Cruz unleashing today on Donald Trump after the Republican frontrunner fanned the flames in the war over their wives on social media.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Nobody respects women more than I do.
I see him in life. He treats women the same as men.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning is Kristen McQuarrie from the Chicago Tribune editorial board. Amy is doing a morning's worth of Hail Marys and Our Fathers, as one is. It's appropriate to do on Good Friday.
She's praying for your soul. It's going to take a while.
Could use all the prayers I could get. This question, I know this is a question we've asked before. We'll have to ask it again. The numbers change. The dynamics change. The question remains, is Donald Trump unelectable? Washington Examiner, no Beltway publication, even though it's got Washington in the title, has an op-ed today, Trump the unelectable, and just basically goes through the polling data, the snapshot of it right now, and makes the implicit point that everybody kind of knows who Donald Trump is and has a sense of him, so it may be difficult to move these numbers, which, that's not an illegitimate point. Monmouth poll, the Examiner reports 68% of voters say Trump doesn't have the right temperament to be president, which includes 48% of Republicans. Now, I suspect most of them end up coming home, but okay. 64% of independent voters and 64% of white voters, eye-popping 76% of women. Those are the numbers on does not have the right temperament to be president, and then goes on to some other questions and just kind of overall favorable or unfavorable impression. And, of course, as we know, Trump, like Hillary, upside down when it comes to those numbers. Now, before you answer that question, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. The Hillary email scandal, not going away. Couple stories. The Hill reporting yesterday, Judicial Watch released yet another email message that it had unearthed through FOIA requests. Judicial Watch, which is our shadow attorney general, since we don't really have a Justice Department under this administration. Email in which Cheryl Mills, former Clinton chief of staff when she was Secretary of State, communicated with Hillary Clinton on an account to discuss the NSA's efforts to produce a secure BlackBerry device for her use as Secretary of State. So this will perhaps prompt more questions about Hillary's narrative with respect to her use of a private email server, and that it was A-OK and nobody was concerned about it, and there were no discussions on point as to the matter. It was sort of a mistake that I now recognize after the fact, but who could have foreseen it at the time? And this, which is even more interesting, because this could be perhaps a more opportunity, more likelihood that you would see a referral for charges by FBI. This area, the intersection between the Clinton Foundation and the Secretary of State's office while she was Secretary of State, essentially leveraging her public position for private and personal gain. Documents released this week have former Clinton staffers at the State Department coordinating with staff at the Clinton Global Initiative to help her thank her nonprofit's donors for their quote-unquote commitments. Remember, she wasn't supposed to be fundraising at all as Secretary of State for the foundation. She agreed to that. That was a stipulation by the Obama administration for her to be leveled up to Secretary of State. She agreed to it. She violated that agreement. Of course she did. But there are messages that were addressed to Clinton's chief of staff against Cheryl Mills, who included other State Department recipients and emails that related to Clinton Foundation business, not the public business as executed by the State Department.
So do you think the investigation will take a turn and start looking at this overlap between her role and the foundation versus whether or not she was grossly negligent in transferring classified information?
I think that's happening. I think that's been happening. I mean, the reports suggest that the FBI and 150 agents assigned to the case, that they're running two parallel tracks simultaneously, one on emails and state secrets, classified information, and the other on the coordination or perhaps self-dealing by Secretary of State Clinton with respect to the Clinton Foundation, of which she is a principal.
Mm-hmm. What about just the donations to the foundation? Are we going to see any more information about who was donating to her, what they were getting in return, who was donating to the foundation, what they were getting in return? Do you expect that will also be?
Good question. Well, and this, if you start to get to the point of people being subpoenaed before a grand jury, and the likes of shadowy Sid Blumenthal having to testify about these matters, and other staffers
with immunity,
right? Perhaps like the guy who set up her server,
right?
And perhaps other staffers that are on these email communications. boy, it could get interesting. Could be very revealing. May not take another Brett Baer special report on the Clinton Foundation to get to the bottom of it. So we'll see. And again, the one report, the FBI, an unnamed FBI official said, we expect to have this investigation wrapped up by May, barring anything unforeseen. So we'll have an answer before the conventions, it seems, and that would be a good thing one way or the other. And then there's this piece in the Salon.com just to inform the question about Trump's electability. This piece in Salon.com from Camille Paglia, who I just love it. She is just a piece of work. I really enjoy her, even though I disagree with her on a lot of things.
Can't even believe you're quoting Salon.
Well, only favorably when Camille Paglia is the writer. I mean, you read Sexual Personae, didn't you? No, seriously.
No.
Her magnum opus, yes.
No, I try to steer clear of Salon.com.
This is why Trump is winning and why I won't vote for Hillary. That's the piece of feminist lesbian Camille Paglia.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Despite his alarming enthusiasm for waterboarding and torture, Trump's central campaign theme of securing the borders and more stringently vetting immigrants was strengthened by the events in Brussels, she writes. Trump may be raw, crude, uninformed, but he's also smart, intuitive, and a quick study who will presumably get up to passable speed as he assembles a brain trust over the coming months. Whether he can temper his shoot from the hip impetuosity is another matter, but this is an important point she makes. There's a huge gap between the teeth-gnashing fulminations of the anti-Trump mainstream media and the perfectly reasonable Trump supporters whom I hear calling into radio talk shows.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans need to wake up and realize that Trump's triumph is not due to some drunken delusion by a benighted rabble, but is a direct result of the proven weaknesses of the other candidates. And she goes on to decimate Ted Cruz and on down the line. She ends with this. She's a Bernie Sanders supporter in the primary, loathes Hillary Clinton. Voters have a tremendous opportunity this year to smash the tyrannical, money-mad machinery of both parties. A vote for Bernie Sanders is a vote for the future. If socialism is your future, that's my editorializing. While a vote for Hillary is a reward to the DNC for its shameless manipulation and racketeering. A primary vote for Donald Trump is a rebuke to the arrogantly insular GOP establishment, which, if he wins the nomination, will lose its power and influence overnight. We will. Then she goes on to talk about how it will be a race to the bottom, but she does so in a very entertaining way with all kinds of film references I enjoy, so I'm going to read it. We will be sadistically trapped in an endless film noir with Trump as Citizen Kane, Don Corleone, and Scarface, and Hillary as Norma Desmond, Mommy Dearest, and the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, my goodness.
that's
Mommy Dearest.
That's a pretty good size up. Boy, you got a lot covered there. Norma Desmond and Sunset Strip. Sunset Boulevard, excuse me. Mommy Dearest of the Wicked Witch of the West, and then Trump as Charles Foster Kane, Don Corleone, and Scarface. I like it.
What do you make, though, of the There was another editorial board, you said, that that people are still trying to figure out how they can undercut Trump's success so far. And it just bothers me. I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't particularly like him. But I think the idea that the establishment GOP, that all these people have been trying to send a message to, are still talking about trying to take the nomination away from him.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between taking the nomination away through some
rule change
yes,
at the convention,
through some kind of sleight of hand, and beating him in primaries such that you keep him under the necessary delegate count. Those are two different things. And Scott Walker actually said, he's endorsed Ted Cruz. You got this line in the sand that's been drawn by Ted Cruz and a lot of those Beltway types. Wisconsin is where we stopped Trump cold and changed the direction of the race. We'll see. Wisconsin has closed one poll. Emerson has it a dead heat now. But if Cruz doesn't win Wisconsin, then here we go again. Trump marches on, and I think he marches on to the nomination relatively easily. If Cruz is able to stop in Wisconsin, that would be kind of a first upset victory, and it could change the race. It's not going to change the race in terms of Donald Trump ending up with the most delegates, but it could change the race in terms of Donald Trump not ending up with the requisite number of delegates, and then we really have a free-for-all.
Then you might actually be able to make a case if it's actually a brokered convention because the party is legitimately split. But I don't think that people who go to the polls and are casting votes for Donald Trump are understanding that they're really casting votes for delegates. And if I just foresee if any type of upheaval where they try to slide Ted Cruz in. It's been such an open story. I mean, you had National Review Online taking out entire issues to try to beat down Donald Trump. I just find it to be really arrogant.
Well, so did Dr. Ben Carson, who was on The View yesterday, making the case for the guy that he endorsed best as he could amongst those man-hating shrews. And we'll have Ben Carson and your calls after this.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Your forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, dropping to 32 degrees. Tomorrow, some sunshine giving way to clouds and a high of 57. And now we will get a check of traffic from Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Kristen. Veterans Memorial Tollway southbound. It is closed at St. Charles due to a crash. Everything's blocked off and traffic is at a standstill from the Army Trail Toll Plaza to St. Charles. Northbound, there's a Gapers delay from past Roosevelt to St. Charles. Northbound Tri-State, a little heavy from the Reagan Tollway to the Eisenhower. Eastbound Adams Tollway, stop and go 31 to 25. There's a crash in the left lane. Also heavy Roselle to 53. The Reagan Tollway's clear. Eden's wide open. The Kennedy, delay-free. Same goes for the Eisenhower. Inbound Stevenson, it's slow Cermak to Lakeshore Drive, where there's long-term road work. Just a 4-minute delay. The inbound Ryan has a 4-minute delay coming into downtown. I'm Jim Talamonte, Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
I feel great. I've always felt pretty good, but once I started taking them in September, I couldn't have felt any better. Everybody in my household's been sick through the holidays. We've had bad snowstorms here, and I feel great.
This is a wonderful thing. I'm really getting a lot of benefits from it. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to be 71 in April, and I just feel generally much better. I would also say there have been all kinds of colds and flu around me, and I haven't caught any of them. I have arthritis, and that has not been as much as it used to be by a long shot. So it's touched me in many areas.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
Grandview Capital buys homes. If you have a home to sell and it has problems, we will make you a no-obligation cash offer and close fast. If your home is badly outdated, we will buy it. Water damage, mold, or junk up to the rafters, we will buy your home as is. If you have a home that is vacant or soon to be, and you want to avoid the exhausting and stressful ordeal of maintaining it, paying taxes on it, or attempting to sell it, let Grandview buy your home today. We'll give you a fair offer with no obligation, pay you cash, and close on your timetable. Leave the stress and the mess to us. To sell your distressed or vacant home quickly with no commissions and without repairs, call Grandview at 1-800-USA-HOMES. We will buy your home today. Call 1-800-USA-HOMES or visit gvcproperty.com. That's gvcproperty.com. Call the name you can trust, Grandview Capital, accredited by the Better Business Bureau.
You don't have to be a retail giant or government agency to be the victim of a costly data breach. If you run a website and collect customer data, your small to mid-sized business is just as likely to be targeted by hackers. The Barracuda Web Application Firewall provides cost-effective instant security against automated and targeted attacks, making this WAF a must-have for your SMB. Reclaim your network. Try a Barracuda Web App Firewall risk-free at barracuda.com/WAF.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a 1,000,000 bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can help prevent new breakouts. Don't miss this limited time offer. We're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts, and also receive free shipping when you call right now. Call 800-393-6272. That's 800-393-6272.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan answering in for Amy Kristen McCreary from the Chicago Tribune editorial board, addressing the question, is Trump electable? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Ben Carson was addressing the question, why Trump? Why did Dr. Ben endorse Donald Trump? And he was doing it in a hostile and stupid environment on The View yesterday. And here's what Ben Carson had to say to, I don't know, Whoopi or Joy Behar. Or, I mean, they're interchangeable, so whatever. One of them.
Well, you know, when I dropped out, my first choice went with me. But I said that.
Was you?
I was going to remain neutral. But then I realized that, the political establishment was aligning to protect their turf. And they don't like the idea of people who are not beholden to them and who cannot be controlled coming into Washington, D.C. And that was one of the reasons they didn't like me very much, but I was easier to get rid of than Donald Trump.
And so the point that Ben Carson makes, a African-American conservative neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon, is the point that Kristen McQuarrie of the Chicago Tribune editorial board made, is the point that feminist lesbian Camille Pauly and Salon.com made. That's the overriding point. And it minimizes the negatives with respect to Trump, at least for Trump supporters. What Ben Carson said is really, a version of the overriding value proposition of Donald Trump. And there are enough people who have been fleeced by a government they finance that find that very appealing.
Right. And I just find it to be very elitist, the idea that you have National Review Online and editorial boards and the GOP establishment trying to somehow cut away at his support. And the point that the Salon.com article makes that's also very relevant is to distinguish between Trump and his rhetoric and his supporters. Because I've gotten a little tired and had to push back a little against people who like to make blanket statements about Trump supporters. Most of them are hardworking Americans, small business owners, people who feel like they've been left out. And to categorize all of them because of some misbehaving and, some racist people, let's just be clear, at some of his rallies, it's just wrong to categorize them all in that way.
Yeah, no, there's no racist people in the hallowed halls of academia or
in the
media,
Democratic Party.
Or the Democratic
Party.
Party.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, let's cross over Bob Byrd Bridge when we get to it, huh?
Right.
Rick in Downers Grove, you're in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, there's a couple things. When you're talking about Hillary breaking her oath to Obama about, what she was going to do with her staying here and her husband have. I mean, it's unheard of to hear a Democrat lie and cheat. That doesn't happen.
No.
And these people who say that Donald Trump can't beat Hillary, I'm like, are these the same people when Donald Trump first announced, probably said that he wasn't going to make it? I'm just curious about that.
They are the same people. They're the same people that have misunderstood Trump from the beginning. And I was one of those people. But at least when it became evident that there was something bigger than Donald Trump going on, like about Labor Day, I started to pick up on some of the cues. I mean, this is now April just about, right, and people still aren't getting it. It's stunning, actually.
It is. And one more thing. Hey, Dan, when are you going to do a Slam soccer segment? Because I would like to participate in that.
Yes.
That will not happen when I'm subbing.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, we can't. Kristen was
soccer
a college
star here.
She was
AYSO coach.
She was a college soccer player. So
no, for like a minute.
Still counts.
Don't give me too much credit.
But so we can't do it now. But we will do it. But it can't be with John Cass either. So we're going to have to. And then Mike Scott is also a soccer fan.
Thank gosh. See, you're outnumbered.
Going to have to do it when everybody's off. Hey, Rick in Downers Grove, when everybody else is off, you'll come in, you'll sub with me, and we'll do 4 hours of hating on soccer. Randy in Milwaukee, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah. Good morning. It's really frustrating in that, Trump supporters are never going to be moved, aren't expected to be moved. But I'm really kind of sick and tired with the legitimate concerns that many of us have out here are dismissed just because the establishment is going after them. They have their own reasons that are not honorable, but many of us, in fact, the majority of us that will cause a split convention is the reason for a split convention, do have legitimate concerns which aren't being recognized or addressed by Trump. I called earlier in the week, and the reply, there was a Trump supporter right after me. I was a state worker who supported Walker and Act 10. It's that, but I took my share of abuse. I've been active in politics for a long time, and most Trump supporters have not been. But they dismiss our concerns, be it attitude.
Randy, I'm sorry, I got to jump, but I thanks for the call. I agree with you, and I agree that's frankly why most Trump supporters are not going to be moved.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Now that spring has arrived, it's likely you're looking forward to the warmer weather. But if you're a business owner, facilities manager, or maintenance engineer, you risk the same potential problem every year. A complete system failure. In fact, up to half of all commercial air conditioning units fail upon startup each season due to the lack of regular maintenance and repair. Let the professionals at Air Comfort make a comprehensive assessment of your mechanical system before there's a problem. A poorly operating air conditioning system results in uneven temperatures and humidity problems, leading to unhealthy mold and mildew growth. Don't compromise your business's overall air quality. Schedule today with Air Comfort. Call 708-345-1900 or visit aircomfort.com. Even if you're under contract with another provider, let Air Comfort provide your second opinion. After all, there's a reason why hundreds of businesses have trusted Air Comfort with their mechanical maintenance for more than 80 years. That's Air Comfort, a tradition of excellence since 1935.
Looking to secure financing on a new home or refinance your existing home? Then you need to do what Amy did, and that's called David Hochberg, Vice President of Lending at Pro Mortgage. Billy's heard hundreds of David's ads, but wanted to contact a realtor before getting pre-qualified to purchase a home in Arlington Heights. Bad move. Not getting pre-qualified by David before talking to a realtor is like getting financial advice from Bernie Madoff. That would be a bad move. David answered Billy's questions, pre-qualified him to purchase a home, and introduced him to Donna Sattler, his Home Sweet Home Chicago radio show's realtor who serves Arlington Heights, to purchase a home. Purchasing a home can be overwhelming, but it won't be if you call David first. David can pre-qualify you for free and introduce you to his team of preferred realtors who help you locate the perfect home. If you're purchasing a home for the first and only call to make is to David at 312-751-1333 or visit am560david.com. David's helped Amy and Billy and hundreds of AM560 listeners, but he can't help you if you don't call 312-751-1333 or visit am560david.com. Pearl Mortgage, equal housing lender, Illinois residential mortgage licensee 4358, NMLS 19186. Coming up, how prepared is the United States for a terrorist attack, to interdict a terrorist attack? We'll ask the director of the Counterterrorism Project at the University of Chicago, Professor Robert Pape, at 7:37. But now let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Kristen, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We have clearing skies and 31 degrees, 7:33, and a U.S. official says at least 2 American citizens have been confirmed to be among those killed in this week's attacks in Brussels. Authorities in Brussels say they are now holding 6 people following raids last night in the Belgian capital. Officials say a man detained in a counter-terror raid in a Paris suburb yesterday has connections to the suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks. France's Interior Ministry says the man was in the advanced stages of an attack plot for that country. The coroner in Owen County, Indiana, conducts an autopsy today on a body believed to be that of a 1-year-old girl who disappeared from her father's home early on Wednesday. Authorities say the body found last night fits the description of Shaylin Ammerman. Christians around the world observing Good Friday today. Churches across the world and here in the U.S. holding services commemorating the trial and crucifixion of Jesus. Many businesses are closed, as are some state and local government offices. On Wall Street, the markets are closed. A baby boy here is safe after his mother was found dead in her apartment in Skokie. Police are now looking for the boy's father, Jermaine Powell. The Illinois Supreme Court dealt unionized state workers a major setback Thursday, ruling the state does not have to pay them raises they are owed if lawmakers did not appropriate that money. Chicago Tribune is taking the Chicago Police Department to court for dragging its feet and providing emails sent or received by former Superintendent Gary McCarthy. Chicago-born comedian Gary Shandling is dead at the age of 66. created It's Gary Shandling Show and was a regular guest host on The Tonight Show. And overnight, the man who created this series, The Waltons, has died. Earl Hammer Jr. passed away in his sleep overnight at the age of 92. He wrote several episodes of The Twilight Zone early in his career and also created the long-running 80s series Falcon Crest. Earl Hammer dead at the age of 92. Chicago sports. New York over the Bulls 106-94. Spring training baseball. Angels beat the White Sox. Cubs outslug San Francisco. And the news is a service of InvisibleFence.com. Protect your pets with Invisible Fence brand. Keep them in the yard, away from the pool, and off the furniture. Invisible Fence brand has the answer to training your pets at InvisibleFence.com. Rain or shine, Invisible Fence brand can install, so visit InvisibleFence.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager has figured out the Trump strategy.
What he does is he comes in like a bulldozer, and anything in its way is shattered, and then is calm and is given tremendous kudos for his calmness. So he has, even if you're a supporter, you have to acknowledge that this is a very effective thing for him.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas, great coffee, period.
Not available in California.
Listeners, do you have startup capital and want to invest in a business with incredible profit potential? Fresh Healthy Vending, the #1 healthy vending franchise in North America, is growing fast, and we're looking for people right here in the local area to become Fresh Healthy Vending franchise owners and help our business continue to boom. If this sounds like you, we'll send you a free owner information kit. As an added bonus to new franchise owners, we'll also pay half the franchise fees. Just go to ReadyForFresh.com and enter code 5000. That's ReadyForFresh.com, code 5000.
Highland Park Ford Lincoln's in the house. Here's Alan Marty.
For 30 years, we've been making people happy with incredible deals and service.
We're the best Ford Lincoln dealers in town.
Because making people happy makes us happy.
No doubt. This is one happy place.
Heck, we just break into dance all the time.
We don't break into dance at the dealership.
Sure we do.
No, we really don't.
We could. Come on, Marty, dance with me.
The Highland Park Ford Lincoln Superstore. Call 1-800-984-9000 or go to alanmarty.com.
Admit it.
Okay, you're a lovely dancer.
Thank you. This is Alan Marty. Deal with us.
7:37. Let's get an update on the roads and our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. Two big tollway problems right now. Southbound Veterans Memorial, it is closed at St. Charles due to a crash. Traffic is at a standstill from the Army Trail Toll Plaza to St. Charles, where nobody's getting through. Northbound, there's a Gapers delay from Roosevelt to St. Charles. Eastbound Adams Tollway, it's jammed from past the Elgin Toll Plaza to 25 with a crash in the two left lanes. Westbound, it's heavy. Beverly to 25 with a left lane blocked in that direction. The Edens, the Kennedy, and the Eisenhower, they're all delay-free. Stevenson slow Cermak to Lakeshore Drive. There's long-term road work, 38 minutes, 3:55 to the drive. Ryan is 19 minutes, 95th to downtown. Traffic is a service of Unbound. There's a girl in El Salvador who dreams of becoming an engineer. There's an elder in Uganda who dreams of having a community to call his own. No two dreams are the same. Help one person achieve theirs at unbound.org. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Turning sunny. We'll hit a high of 45 later this afternoon and a chilly evening, a low of 32. 31 and sun right now at O'Hare. Next news at 8. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig Bolanos. Heard Sunday mornings at 10.
You want more than just the headlines? Find out what's going on and what it means with me, Dennis Prager, this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And sitting in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune editorial board member Kristen McQuarrie. Kristen, yesterday, a couple of developments in the law enforcement response to the terrorist attacks Tuesday in Brussels. 6 people picked up by the Belgian government that, according to the Belgian prosecutor, the federal prosecutor there, had ties to, were involved in some material way with the terrorist attack that occurred on Tuesday. 2 suspects still at large. So this network clearly, at least in the mind of the Belgian government, bigger than the 3 individuals that everybody saw on that surveillance video, the picture from that surveillance video at the airport that was bombed. In addition to that, you had a raid carried out in Paris, where Parisian officials suggest that the individual they took into custody was in the advanced stage of planning a terrorist attack there. This against the backdrop of an AP report that some 400 ISIS fighters, terrorists, have been trained specifically to set up these interconnected networks in Europe and stage rolling attacks on Western European nations in the not-too-distant future. That's the AP report. Belgian officials also admitting that they made some missteps, most notably and embarrassingly, the Interior Minister and the Justice Department of Belgium both offered their resignations a day after Turkey had disclosed that it had warned Belgium last summer that it suspected one of the 2 suicide bombers at the Brussels airport had ties to the Islamic State, and to no avail in terms of response from Belgian authorities. So seems like some intelligence and law enforcement failures, and perhaps a lack of appreciation of the real 24/7 threat that radical Islamic terror poses, and particularly with respect to ISIS-sponsored radical Islamic terror. But for more on this, an understanding of as well of how prepared or unprepared America is to interdict and prevent these types of terrorist attacks in major population centers like we saw in Brussels and we've seen in Paris and Madrid and London and San Bernardino. We're now joined by University of Chicago political science professor Robert Pape. He also directs the Chicago Project on Security and Terrorism at the University of Chicago. Professor Pape, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
So when you see some of the stories coming out of the kind of the response and the assessment of what wasn't done on the prevention side in Brussels and by Belgian officials, number one, are you surprised by it? And number two, if you are not surprised, what is it that Western nations, including America, should be doing that we're not doing so that you don't have the officials have to make the concessions about failures that Belgian officials are having to make in the wake of Brussels?
Sure. Well, for the last few months, there's been a debate among authorities, knowledgeable authorities, about whether the attacks in Paris were a one-off. And the truth is, many hoped they were. Many hoped that this was just a fluke in Paris, that the group of terrorists just somehow got lucky, when in fact there was a tremendous amount of evidence that starting 6 months ago, the Islamic State, that is the terrorist group in Iraq and Syria, fundamentally changed its targeting strategy, and that has continued. You see, 6 months ago, up until then, the Islamic State carried out many suicide attacks and many multiple aim point attacks in Iraq and Syria, but not outside of Iraq and Syria. That changed on October 13th when 2 suicide attackers killed 100 people in Ankara. That's the capital of Turkey. Then 2 weeks later, the Islamic State downed the Russian airplane, killing 224. Then 2 weeks later, we had Paris, 130 dead. Now several other attacks, and now Brussels. And what has happened is that starting about 6 months ago, the Islamic State has started a new campaign of spectacular attacks against the West, and not just anybody in the West, but specifically the countries that are part of the military coalition against it in Iraq and Syria. The reason for this change is that we're actually winning in Iraq and Syria. Over the last year, the United States has put together a military coalition, including France, including Belgium, including Turkey. Russia has tacitly been involved, though not a formal member. That has reduced the territory of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. The Islamic State has 40% less territory in the populated areas of Iraq than it had a year ago. That's a crushing loss for the Islamic State. And what's happening is that the Islamic State is lashing out of desperation like a cornered animal as it's going down. And this is going to go on, I'm afraid, for not just another month or two, but probably 6 months, a year, not for the rest of our lives. This is not this titanic battle between religions and a clash of civilizations. This is about a group in Iraq and Syria that is being crushed. And as it goes down, we have to be prepared for more attacks like this.
So speaking of preparation, the Tribune had an op-ed that was kind of interesting from a DePaul professor who talked about just airport security. And I just want to read you a little passage and get your thoughts. He said that he was disappointed that we're always reactive and there'll be more visible security at O'Hare due to this incident. But terrorists are neither stupid nor impatient. They can wait until the Fuhrer calms down before conducting another attack or circumvent stepped-up security. So are we getting a false sense of security that when we see more armed guards at our transportation centers?
First of all, it's very important that the public be reassured. So it is important to have those armed guards at transportation hubs right after an attack. But fundamentally, that's not enough because the terrorists aren't going to coordinate their attack when those security forces are there. The key thing we need to do is we need to beef up our video surveillance. And I don't mean more cameras. I mean more people watching more cameras. Over the last 10 or 15 years, we've invested a lot in cameras, but not in people to watch the cameras. The people are the expensive part, and that's what we need to invest more funds in. There are also other steps that our law enforcement should be taking in the United States. Many of those steps the FBI is taking, which is one of the reasons why we've had so few problems in the United States. That said, the United States is the leader of the Western coalition against the Islamic State, the leading state that is crushing the group, and there's absolutely no doubt that the Islamic State would like to attack us in the coming months.
We're talking to the University of Chicago political science professor Robert Pape. So, Professor, just going back to the threat that radical Islamic terror poses generally and globally, and beyond ISIS, you know, kind of all in, Al-Shabaab and Al-Nusra and Muslim Brotherhood, everybody. President Obama has referred to ISIS specifically as not an existential threat. He seems to treat it more like, I don't know, something between something like a police action. And you're suggesting that those people, including the president of France, Hollande, who suggests that we are at war, that this is a global war against radical jihadists, that is not the case, or it's not the case if you just isolate ISIS?
Yeah, the idea that we're at a global war is simply wrong. It has been after 9/11, and it fails to predict the timing of the attacks. The reason our authorities, and this isn't just President Obama, but increasingly many of our public authorities, are discounting religion alone as important is because it doesn't predict the timing. Many of the groups that are our enemies have been religious, but just knowing they're religious doesn't tell you anything about when they're going to strike.
Right.
What we need to know is better. We need to better understand when we're most vulnerable and who is most vulnerable. The Islamic State isn't lashing out at Israel. They're not lashing out at just any Christian countries. If they were, they'd be attacking Brazil because Brazil is far more vulnerable than anybody in Europe. The Islamic State is specifically attacking the Western countries that are part of the military coalition that are attacking it and shrinking its territory. Why are we engaged in this battle? It's because the Islamic State was taking territory in the Persian Gulf that was threatening to take oil in Iraq. This is something I think it's hard for politicians to talk about because it's not that we want the oil to put in our pockets, But it is the case that Persian Gulf oil is the key, one of the keys certainly to our economy, and we don't want any enemy, not a terrorist state, not a terrorist group, not a state, to control hunks of oil in the Persian Gulf. That's what happened in the summer of 2014. They were on the verge of taking Kurdish oil. And that was what really prompted all this action against Al-Shabaab. They're not attacking us here in the United States. They're not attacking in Europe. The key is, I'm not telling you they're not religious, sir. I'm telling you that they are really, the terrorist groups are motivated on specific hunks of territory, and that's what we need to keep our eye on if we're really going to be able to anticipate the threat.
All right, he is University of Chicago political science professor Robert Pape. He also directs the University of Chicago Project on Security and Terrorism, CPOST, that's it's known. And Professor Pape, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And he joined us on Turnkey.Pro Answer Line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Your forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, drops down to 32 degrees. Tomorrow, some sunshine, and we warm all the way up to 57 degrees. Now we'll take a check of traffic with Jim Talamonte.
Christian and Dan, the southbound Veterans Memorial Tollway is closed from North Avenue to Roosevelt due to a crash at St. Charles. Traffic is forced off at North Avenue, and it is jammed from Army Trail. Northbound, it's slow from before Butterfield to St. Charles with gapers. We see heavy delays on the eastbound Adams Tollway from the Elgin Toll to 25, where a crash has two left lanes blocked. Westbound slow Beverly to 25. The left lane is blocked there to deal with that crash. The Edens, the Kennedy, and the Eisenhower are delay-free this Good Friday. Inbound Stevenson, there's a 4-minute delay, Cermak to Lakeshore Drive. The Ryan has a 4-minute delay coming into downtown. No delays to report on I-80 or in northwest Indiana. I'm Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
The following is a paid political announcement.
When did Republicans lose their backbone, their guts, their conviction? Some will say they stood up to Obama. That's easy. But who stood up to their own party? That's Marlin Stutzman. Marlin said no to the establishment by voting against John Boehner. And he fought sweetheart deals on both sides by voting against the omnibus. Because politicians refuse to get it done, Marlin authored the only conservative budget that actually balances. And to keep the Washington crowd from getting cozy, Marlin is fighting for term limits to toss the career politicians out. It's not good enough to just vote for candidates who say they're conservative. We need leaders who have the guts to act like one. Marlin knows when Republicans bend, America breaks. Stand strong, Marlin. Conservative Marlin Stutzman for Senate.
I'm Marlin Stutzman, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Stutzman for Senate.
I'm Dan Proft with an Upstream Idea, brought to you by the Illinois Policy Institute. 27. Illinois state employees, on average, receive total compensation 27% higher than their private sector counterparts. State employees made nearly $4,000 more in wages and $13,000 in benefits than private sector employees. More than half of state workers will retire before the age of 60 with a guaranteed state pension. The state is in a financial death spiral with ground impact imminent. So keep this in mind as Governor Bruce Rauner breaks off contract talks with AFSCME, the state's largest public sector union. AFSCME has been unwilling to give on its demands for annual step increases of 3.8%, in addition to annual general wage increases. The lowball estimate of the cost of what AFSCME demands is $1.6 billion. That's $1.6 billion more from Illinois families who already pay the highest property taxes in the nation. This is Governor Rauner's moment of truth. He ran for office saying he is not a politician. He said he is a businessman who will make the difficult decisions to turn around the state he loves. We're about to find out if that's true. For more Upstream ideas, visit upstream-ideas.com. I'm Dan Proft.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan, and sitting in for Amy is Kristen McQuarrie from the Tribune editorial board, and we're getting some reaction to Professor Robert Pape's comments about the threat of radical Islamic terror. Doug and Lyle, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
I almost drove off the road because I was staring at the radio going, is this guy actually serious? I'm like, what a knucklehead. If we don't know when we're going to be attacked, we're not at war? I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And I just shook my head going, what a knucklehead.
Thanks for the call.
I hope okay, take
Thanks.
care.
I mean, Professor Pape is a very smart guy, and CPOST does a lot of good work. But I just disagree with him. This idea that if all of the Islamic terrorist organizations are not coordinated, if some are competing and some are hitting targets that are not the U.S. or even Western European nations, but they're in Africa or the Middle East, that somehow we don't have this larger problem of civilization versus uncivilization. I disagree with that. I wish we had more time with him, but we'll have him back on the show to explore this in more detail.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. And now, a moment of objectivism with your Ron Brook and the Ayn Rand Institute.
Imagine you really hated poor people. What would you do? Well, maybe you'd prevent them from learning, say by sending them to many of today's government schools. Or maybe you'd prevent them from working, say by the minimum wage, which says that anyone whose work isn't worth $15 an hour is going to be stopped from accepting a lower paying job. Or maybe you'd force them to work without pay for a month and a half, a year, which is basically what Social Security and Medicare does via 15.3% payroll tax. Today's regulatory welfare state is not the solution to poverty. It's what's holding back the ambitious poor. For more, visit ARIradio.com. From the Ayn Rand Institute, I'm Ron Brook.
This has been a moment of objectivism from the Ayn Rand Institute. To learn more, listen to the Yaron Brooks Show, Saturdays at 4 on AM 560, and visit ARIradio.com.
Why are Ayn Rand's ideas so compelling? Her worldview, her philosophy, expressed dramatically in her novels Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, embodies the ideals stated by the Founding Fathers in the Declaration of Independence and sets forth the requirements necessary to achieve a flourishing life. She called her philosophy objectivism and said it was a philosophy for living on Earth. Today, decades after her death, objectivism continues to stir debate and inspire passion for the spirit of individualism and the enduring American dream.
Hey, when you buy a new house, you don't buy the first one you see. When you sell your house, you don't choose the first real estate broker you hear about. You choose the agent backed by the most powerful brand in real estate, and that agent is Ed Lukasik, owner of RE/MAX Professionals. Ed doesn't need to offer gimmicks like promising to buy your home because he can't sell it or 24-hour listing agreements. Ed does offer the promise of hard work and an aggressive, innovative marketing plan to sell your home. The most compelling reason to call RE/MAX Professionals is the best. Ed Lukasik Jr. has closed over 1,600 homes since 2008, giving him the knowledge and experience most agents cannot obtain in their whole career. The average real estate agent closes 7 homes a year. Ed sold over 229 listings in just the past year alone. Make the right choice. Choose RE/MAX Professionals to list your home. Get an in-person market analysis straight from Ed. Call him at 630-679-5454. That's 630-679-5454.
Hi, I'm Lex Howard, CEO of Balance of Nature. I occasionally take new customer calls, and often people tell me that they have been hearing our advertisements for years. What are you waiting for? Start now and begin experiencing the benefits of Balance of Nature in your life.
I actually believe that it is working because I went to have my thyroid TSH level checked and my T3 and 4, and in October originally it was at 3. My TSH was at 3.28, and Monday's test came out to 0.63. I do believe that it has something to do with it.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
Highland Park Ford Lincoln's in the house. Here's Alan Marty.
It's an exciting time here at the Highland Park Superstore.
That's right, Al. There's never been a better time to buy.
All of our incredible cars.
All at the lowest prices of the year.
No gimmicks, no slick sales talk.
No goofy spokesman.
No big inflatable apes at the dealership. Just great cars at great prices.
You sure about the inflatable ape? I like those.
The Highland Park Ford Lincoln Superstore. Call 1-800-984-9000 or go to alanmarty.com.
Maybe just a little one.
Can someone get Marty a monkey? This is Al and Marty. Deal with us.
I'm Mike Scott. Here are the stories we are watching this morning. Police investigating a homicide in Skokie. The Illinois Supreme Court says no back pay yet. And a mostly sunny day ahead, but chilly. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. He's offering American prayers in Brussels. Secretary of State John Kerry.
The United States stands firmly behind Belgium and with the nations of Europe in the face of this tragedy.
Kerry also tells Fox while there could be more attacks, ISIS is being
decimated. Their leadership is being eliminated from the battlefield. Their revenues are being taken away.
The U.S. says 2 Americans are among the 31 dead. We don't know their identities. Earlier, the family of a Dutch brother and sister living in New York confirmed those 2 were also killed. There have been more terror raids around Brussels, where Fox's Jessica Gallagher is live.
Dave, police are going door-to-door searching for suspects and connections to Tuesday's triple suicide bombings here that killed at least 31 people. 7 have been arrested in the terror raids. I visited the borough of Jet where one of those searches was carried out. Soldiers with machine guns could be seen patrolling the quiet tree-lined streets in camouflage. The federal prosecutor's office says arrest warrants could be issued for 3 other suspects today. Meanwhile, it's the 3rd day of mourning here. The airport remains closed until at least Monday. Dave.
Jessica, in a raid outside Paris, a Frenchman was arrested, found with guns and explosives. He was convicted in absentia last year for recruiting jihadists in Syria. We just got another update on the economy. Fox's Jenny Casola has it live.
Dave, the economic expansion at the end of last year was at a faster pace than first estimated. The gross domestic product increased 1.4%, not the 1% first reported. That is on top of a 2% in the third quarter. The gross domestic product is the reading on all goods and services in the U.S. It offers an indication about how the economy is doing. Dave?
Now, Jenny, Wall Street will not react. There's no trading on this Good Friday. In Jerusalem's Old City, Christians are retracing the steps they believe Jesus took on the path to his crucifixion. Thousands are there. Some are carrying large wooden crosses on their backs. This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Clouds and sunshine. More sun than clouds right now at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Headed for a sunny high of 45 later today. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. A baby boy is safe after his mother was found dead in her apartment in Skokie. This morning, police now say they're looking for the boy's father, Jermaine Powell, in connection with that crime. An Ohio woman has been sentenced to 15 years in prison in the killing of a Catholic high school teacher in his suburban Chicago home. Cook County Circuit Judge James Obish dismissed Alicia Walker's contention at trial. She acted in self-defense when she stabbed to death 61-year-old Brother Rice teacher Al Filan. The 23-year-old Walker of Akron claims she acted in self-defense after Filan became angry when she and another prostitute refused to have unprotected sex. Prosecutors argue Walker fabricated that story. An Illinois Supreme Court ruling deals unionized state workers a major setback. The ruling Thursday says the state does not have to pay them raises that they may be owed if lawmakers did not appropriate the money for them. The ruling reverses decisions of a labor arbitrator who decided that former Governor Pat Quinn was wrong in 2011 to withhold those raises because of a lack of money. Southern Illinois University's Board of Trustees votes to increase tuition next year at the school's Carbondale campus by 3% and raise fees at SIU Edwardsville. Chicago sports, Derrick Rose had 30, but the Bulls lost to New York 106-94. College hoops last night in the NCAA tournament. Villanova eliminated Miami. Jayhawks over Maryland. Oklahoma skates past Texas A&M. And the Sooners take on Oregon, which eliminated Duke. The news, a service of InvisibleFence.com. Protect your pets with Invisible Fence brand. Keep them in the yard, away from the pool, and off the furniture. Invisible Fence brand has the answer to training your pets at InvisibleFence.com. Invisible Fence brand can install in any weather, rain or shine. Visit InvisibleFence.com. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat. And from the Fox Business Network, a service of Turnkey.pro, here's Lillian Wu.
From the Fox Business Network, Wall Street closed for Good Friday, the day after seeing a first weekly loss since last month. In Europe, major exchanges, including those in London, Paris, and Frankfurt, all closed on Good Friday. Also, the Monday after Easter, the same in Asia for Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa markets. Singapore markets are closed today. What is open, the Yangon stock market in Myanmar, also known as Burma. It's officially open for business today, more than 3 months after its launch. GameStop seeing shares down in aftermarket trading Thursday. The world's largest retailer of video games forecast first quarter revenue below analyst estimates, and rare Justice League and X-Men comic books valued at more than $200,000 stolen from a Central Georgia store. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Lillian Wu.
8:05 in Chicago, and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
When I was broke and dumb, I would say I can afford it.
Dave Ramsey.
What I meant was I thought I could pay the payment. Then I started talking to rich people. When rich people say I can afford it, you know what it means? It means they have the money to write the check and buy the thing. They actually can afford it. People say, I can afford that car. My first question is, does that mean you have the cash to write a check and buy the car? Because otherwise you cannot afford the car.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weeknights starting at 7, right before Michael Medved at 10. Presented by Wintrust Community Bank on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, getting a new iPhone? Listen up. Every 2 seconds, one of us will accidentally break our phone. So, protecting and insuring your phone and your family, that's a smart idea. But if you have insurance from one of those big cell phone companies, you're paying way too much. So stop overpaying for insurance through carriers, and you can switch to Square Trade Phone Protection today, and you'll start saving hundreds of dollars. Verizon and Sprint can charge as much as $11 a month for phone insurance. For a family of 4, that's $44 a month, plus up to a $199 deductible when you break your phone. Now, Square Trade Phone Protection is less than $5 a month. A family of 4, guess what? You can save over $500 a year. So protect your new iPhone or smartphone with Square Trade and stop overpaying for phone protection and protect all the phones in your family. And visit SquareTrade.com. SquareTrade.com.
Square Trade does not cover lost or stolen items. Savings based on 2-year iPhone plan with 1 claim compared to Assured and total equipment coverages of August 10, 2015.
8:06 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. The Veterans Memorial Tollway southbound 355 is closed between Army Trail and Roosevelt due to a crash. All traffic is forced off at North Avenue. It's jammed from Army Trail to that point, and the ramp from North Avenue to southbound 355 is closed also. Northbound, there's a Gapers delay starting around before Butterfield now. Eastbound Adams Tollway is a big mess from the Elgin Toll Plaza to 25, where a rollover has 2 left lanes blocked. Limousine involved there. Westbound, it's a big delay from Beverly to 25. 2 left lanes are blocked to deal with that eastbound crash. The Edens, Kennedy, and Eisenhower are delay-free this Good Friday. Inbound Stevenson, it's just a 2-minute delay from State to Lakeshore Drive. The Ryan has a 4-minute delay coming into downtown. Northwest Indiana, wide open except for 8094 eastbound with a crash at the Indiana Toll Road, so it's a little slow from Ripley to the toll road where the left lane is blocked. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte, AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the AirComfort.com Weather Center. Here's our meteorologist, Kevin Snyder.
A mostly sunny day today with a high of 46. Then tonight it will become partly cloudy with a low of 32. For tomorrow, some sun to start the day. Then we will see clouds increasing. High getting up to 57. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently 31 at O'Hare. Next news, 8:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next with Kristen McCreary of the Chicago Tribune editorial board sitting in for Amy on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by RadioPlumbingDeals.com. Have a plumbing problem? Get the best plumbers in Chicagoland and massive discounts at RadioPlumbingDeals.com.
Good morning. Welcome to your Friday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
The advanced person who let him do the tango, that person ought to be looking for work on somebody's, in somebody's campaign very, very far away. That was a tremendous mistake. It's fine to go to Argentina. You want to do the work, but you've got to be careful of these little photo ops for optics, baseball games, and tangos.
Back at home, turning now to the race for president, and a furious Ted Cruz unleashing today on Donald Trump.
after the Republican frontrunner fanned the flames in the war over their wives on social media.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Nobody respects women more than I do.
I see him in life. He treats women the same as men.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Please clap.
Good morning, Dan. And sitting in for Amy this morning, Kristen McQuarrie, Chicago Tribune editorial board member. Kristen, a story out yesterday. According to the Census Bureau, Cook County lost 10,000 people last year, largest exodus of any county in the country. I'll tell you what, those gosh darn low taxes, good schools, plentiful job opportunities, and safe streets, it's driving people out of here.
People are leaving in droves. No, actually, the truth is, through interviews with people that the Tribune did, they do cite high property taxes. They actually cited the state budget impasse, instability with political leaders. Weather is, of course, a factor as well. But
weather, sure.
People are tuning in to the problems of this state, and they are renting U-Hauls.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, weather, it's so interesting because the left always talks about weather, Chicago's harsh winters and all that. Explain to me why people are leaving San Diego for Houston. If you think it's mainly weather, it's not mainly weather. It is people who are not insulated from horrific public policy propagated by Chicago Democrats in charge of the city for 100 years and the state for the last 40 that have destroyed the state's economy, that have us with the highest property taxes in the nation, that have us with a junk-rated Chicago public school system and, frankly, a junk-rated city, that have us with the largest unfunded pension liabilities and the worst credit rating of any state in the nation, that have us in this predicament, and, oh, by the way, with an unemployment rate 20% higher than the national average. Yeah, you think that nobody cares about that? Limousine liberals who are insulated from terrible public policy can just look at the planters that line Michigan Avenue and not worry about all the other statistics I just rattled off. And people who are beneficiaries of transfer payments can also just subsist despite all of this detritus. Everybody in the middle who pays the bills, they're a little bit more sensitive. Their demand for living in the Chicago metropolitan area turns out to be a little bit more elastic, something maybe policymakers want to take judicial notice of. And speaking of judicial notice, this case before the Illinois State Supreme Court on pensions, a rather modest proposal, agreement really, between Tiny Dancer and 28 public sector unions to change the city's pension system on a go-forward basis, make employees contribute a little bit more to their pensions, and eliminate the cost of living adjustments, which are not really COLAs, they're annuities because they've been running at about 7 times the rate of inflation for the last decade. That's struck down by the Supreme Court.
We have very strict and straightforward constitutional language that pensions cannot be diminished and impaired. And from 2 years ago, when the court ruled that even health care benefits, state employees are entitled to what amounts to basically free health care. The state picks up their premium. The court ruled that was also a constitutional guarantee. And you had even one dissenting justice, Ann Burke, saying that the court was reading something out of whole cloth. But so they're willing to go that far. It shouldn't be a surprise that actual structural changes to the city's pension proposal would also be struck down.
All right. Well, let's get some additional insight on the case and the implications of the decision from the Illinois State Supreme Court. We're now joined by attorney Clint Krisloff. He's a graduate of Northwestern like me. Oh, no.
Oh, bummer.
He's also the founder and principal attorney of Krisloff and Associates. He represented, I believe, some of the labor unions that were not on board with Mayor Tiny Dancer's proposal. Clint, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. We did not represent the unions. We just there were other lawyers in the case who were there for unions. We were just there for participants who had worked
I see. Okay.
in expectation of a certain package of benefits. And the court predictably said that that package of benefits can't be diminished or impaired, can't be reduced as part of a deal because, it could be as part of a deal. if an individual was given the choice between receiving these benefits and receiving other benefits and chose them, that would be okay.
And that was kind of a new statement from the state Supreme Court, this idea of consideration. If you present a worker in question with choices and they make a choice with due consideration, like any contractual arrangement, and may perhaps as part of a collective bargaining negotiation, that could be okay. So that may be a path forward.
Yeah, I don't know whether they can. The unions don't have authority to bargain retirees' rights. Once you've retired,
right,
you're no longer part of the bargaining unit.
Yeah.
And the city and the state have always said, look, the unions will not talk to the unions about this. And so really the participants were left with nothing but the Constitution and the court to protect them, and that's what we did.
Do you think, in reading the decision, that when the court opened up the door to this idea of choice, that would still have to be bargained as part of contract negotiations, not a separate piece of legislation? Because even Senate President John Cullerton's consideration proposal still offers employees two choices that are a reduction of benefits. So is there any way that would be constitutional in your opinion?
Speculating here. If all it did was say, instead of what you've got now, you can have this lesser package or that lesser package, that might not satisfy. Mm-hmm. But if you said, you can keep what you have, or you can choose this alternative package, and so you'd have to sweeten it in some way that would make it better. Then each person could choose.
See, here's the thing, Clint. People who work in the private sector hear these discussions that we have, and they say, well, let me understand something. So right now, and this is according to number of studies, let's just take the state level, for example. State workers make 27% more on average in terms of both salary and benefits than their private sector counterparts. And what you're telling me is, on a go-forward basis, for work I have not done yet, my employer cannot change my compensation package. Well, I know in my business, in my company, if we have a bad year, for the work I haven't done yet, the salary I'm going to receive next year, and I'm up for review, I may see a salary cut, or I may see I have to increase more for the benefits package my company offers because the year wasn't so good. Illinois has had a lot of bad years, and it seems like taxpayers suffer and state workers or public sector workers don't, and it has a lot of people kind of upset.
I understand they're being upset. But before the financial crisis, what happened, the way it was people who worked in public employment took a little bit less for a little more security and a little more secure benefits. And it was decided back in 1970 that the public employees should not be at risk of every legislature's whim of, are we going to give you retirement benefits or not give you retirement benefits? And so in order to balance between the public sector in those days, which was making less, and I think everybody would agree they were making less, they got more security. And so that's really been the trade-off. Now it turned out, after the financial crisis, when private employers cannot reduce their pension benefits, ERISA protects the private sector from that.
Yeah, but they could reduce their salaries, or they could fire them.
Well, there are provisions for that in the public sector as well. The whole question really is, and really if you want to focus on what caused the problem, the public employees didn't do anything wrong. They showed up for work. They worked every day in public.
Yeah.
And the politicians chose to spend the money on something other than funding the benefits that they were promising people.
Well, Clint, I agree with that. But here's the thing, and I worked in the public sector too. I have no animus towards public sector workers. There's nothing dishonorable about working in the public sector. But here's the thing, and we know from the record that a lot of the public sector union bosses were in on those decisions to skip payments or short fund pension payments because they had that constitutional guarantee. And so, here's the thing that still becomes problematic, and it creates this us versus them environment, which is not particularly constructive. Oh, wait a second, you're saying that politicians lie to you? Politicians lie to everybody. They lie to the fishes. They lie to me, too. So I get to write the blank check and you get all the benefits? I don't think so.
No, you You voted for those politicians, and many of us voted for those politicians, and nobody said, look, you're creating benefits that you're not funding. We actually sued on this years ago in 1998 in the Sklodowsky case to force the state to make its minimum required annual contributions. And the courts held, nope, you employees don't have the right to control funding. You can't force us to do this. Have a nice day. You're entitled to benefits, but don't tell us how we're going to fund it or that we're going to even have to follow the law. We tried to get this fixed 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, and really the court, that was one in the decision against the state pension reform law, they took a pretty heavy hammer to the General Assembly and cited all the times that the General Assembly failed to properly fund. They weren't as strict with the city because my understanding is the city actually did make its statutorily required payments, but they're never actuarially enough to pay for the benefits. Is that correct?
Well, and in some years when the city wanted to, they went down to Springfield and they got a pass on making any contributions. And so while people were contributing parts of their salaries to their pension, the city got a holiday for 6 years, I believe, on the laborers fund. I mean, that's hundreds of millions of dollars that, we just spent for something else.
And 10 years CPS. For 10 years, CPS did not contribute to the teachers' pension fund.
And that's the problem is that you tell the workers, look, you should take a haircut because we didn't put in our contribution. That's not right. I mean, that even the governor, whose name is controversial, has said at one point we have to recognize the only way to go forward is sort of combining him and Cullerton and saying, look, we have to recognize that the benefits of people who are working today are protected, and we have to figure out how to go forward with a plan for the future.
Well, I mean, here's the problem, though, with the future, and you talked about what the world was like in 1970. That's not the world in 2016, and the numbers bear it out, and so if that requires a change, then why wouldn't we make that change? And I look at this, I mean, to Chicago public school teachers who are about to go on strike, average contribution to their pension fund over 30 years for retirees retiring today from CPS, $133,000. Average total benefits in retirement, north of $2 million. A 15,000% plus return on their contributions as with respect to their benefits. In the private sector, in order to get a $2 million pension, you would have to contribute $1.484 million to your account.
That's not accurate.
It is accurate.
No, because that's where you're saying that if I'm going to pay for the full cost of my benefits,
yes.
Well, but what about the employer? The employer has a share too.
Yeah. So you would want to
saying you got to make everybody into a 401k, and that's not how this system works.
Well, I understand, but fine. Even if I discounted that, instead of 15-1, private sector versus Chicago teacher, what would that be? 10-1. So you think you can sustain this? You pay in $133,000, you get $2 million back?
If you tell me I'm going to have a benefit and I work for you for 30 years, and you say, look, at the end of it, I just chose not to make my contribution. I chose not to make an actuarially sound employer contribution.
I understand that. I'm talking about go forward. I'm talking about go forward. For work not yet completed, for years not yet served, why is the public sector union leadership so intransigent to changing going forward when you know you cannot sustain this math?
You have to. You can talk to the unions and talk about that. I don't represent the unions. All that I've represented in this case and in the healthcare case are workers who worked in the expectation that they were going to get what they were promised.
I understand that. And I agree with that people should get what they were promised.
Well, but the courts have sided with Clint. I mean, they have said basically from day one of employment, whatever benefit is promised to you is guaranteed under that constitutional clause, which I think only 7 states have. And as far as I know, no state that has tried to pass a pension reform law like ours has it been upheld by the court. So that leads me to my quick question. If we change the Constitution, if we take out that language, does that do anything, in your opinion, to ease the burden on taxpayers, or would that also be on a going forward basis, and so we wouldn't really be seeing any savings?
Here's the problem. When you try to change the Constitution, And there are some of us who say, where are the strict constructionists when we need them? They weighed in this time. When you change one thing, everybody has something else they want to change. When they went through with the tax, they tried to change the tax provision of the Constitution. Everybody said, no, you know what? Once we do that, once we have a new constitutional convention, everybody comes in with their lobbyists, and pretty soon those hallmarks that we really rely on for our protection, that are important to each of us, suddenly get negotiated away. So there's a lot to be said for keeping the Constitution the way it is and dealing with it as a negotiation on a basis that actually can go forward on a legal basis. Once you have long-term future financing protected, the rest sort of fits in, because you only have to finance for between now and the lifetimes of the people who are there now. The future is a long time.
All right, he is Clint Krisloff. He is an attorney, a principal attorney of Krisloff and Associates. Clint, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And Clint Krisloff joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Your forecast for today, mostly sunny, high of 45, partly cloudy tonight, low of 32. Tomorrow we get some sunshine and temperatures climb all the way to 57 degrees. Now let's get a check of traffic with Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Kristen. Southbound Veterans Memorial Tollway, it is closed from North Avenue to Roosevelt due to a major crash at St. Charles. It's jammed from Army Trail to North Avenue, where traffic is forced off the tollway. Northbound, there's a Gapers delay starting around Roosevelt. Eastbound Adams Tollway jammed from the Elgin Toll Plaza to 25. There's a rollover involving a limousine. 2 left lanes are blocked there. And westbound, the Gapers delay starts at Beverly. The Chicago expressways are pretty light. I'm Jim Talamonte, Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
How'd you feel this morning? Man, I feel great every morning because I got an awesome night's sleep with MyPillow. I know you hear me rave about MyPillow all the time. If you still aren't sleeping on a MyPillow, why not? You'll feel more rested and have a better day. Man, if you experience headaches, neck pain, insomnia, allergies, MyPillow can make a difference. You have to try MyPillow to experience the benefits. It's a premium pillow with 4 different loft levels to fit you. It's washable, keeps it shape, and supports you where you need it most. That's why it's the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation. Act now and get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. 1 for you and the other is a gift. It's the best offer, I got to tell you. Visit MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201. Use the promo code Joe for the 2-for-1 offer. Do it now. 800-489-0201 or online at MyPillow.com. Promo code Joe. 800-489-0201.
My name is David Hochberg, and I'm Vice President of Lending at Pearl Mortgage. That's right, I'm now Vice President of Lending at Pearl Mortgage. If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, give me a call. I'm the same guy that's provided listeners with honest advice and outstanding customer service for the past 13 years. The only thing that's changed is where I work. When you want to refinance and pay off debt, you called me and I helped you. When your kids were purchasing their first home and you wanted to make sure they were working with a trustworthy lender, you called me and I helped them. If you would like to talk to me about a mortgage, please give me a call at 312-751-1333. That's 312-751-1333. Email me at david@pearldavid.com. That's david@PERLDavid.com. Or visit my website, am560david.com. 312-751-1333. Pearl Mortgage is an equal housing lender, Illinois residential mortgage licensee, 4358, licensed by DBO under California RMLA and MLS 19186. PearlMortgage.com licensing.
Business moves at the speed of trust. Trust in your product, and just as imperative, trust in those that represent your business. For almost 3 decades, Flex Execs has assisted their clients in becoming more competitive through recruiting top talent. Finding the right people to drive your company is critical. Flex Talent Finder is a customized recruiting solution tailored to meet your business needs, saving you 40 to 50% over traditional contingent search. Flex Execs' U.S.-based recruiters can handle 1 position or 100 for any type of full-time position. Flex Talent Finder efficiently identifies the best talent for you. Business moves at the speed of trust. Trust the people that represent your business. You can't afford not to. Connect online at flexexecs.com or call 630-655-0563 and ask for Chris Swanson or Karen Murphy. Flex Execs, moving business at the speed of trust. Call 630-655-0563 or visit them online at flexexecs.com.
A beauty day to play 18, huh, Dale? 80 degrees and not a cloud in the sky. The forecast looks great for the next 3 days, too. Looks like we'll just schedule 3 more courses this week.
You've been pretty lucky that you've been able to spend some quality time in the sun. Something that you may not be so lucky with is the fact that 1 in 5 people will develop skin cancer in their lifetime. At Dermatology and Plastic Surgery Associates, they know that most people are unaware of the effects that a lifetime of sun can have on their skin. If you've been sunburned in your lifetime, it's time to have your skin checked out. Call Dermatology and Plastic Surgery Associates at 855-560-SKIN. or visit skinhealthpros.com. The doctors at Dermatology and Plastic Surgery Associates have your skin health covered. Skin cancer kills, so today's the day to get your skin checked. Dermatology and Plastic Surgery Associates, 855-560-SKIN. or visit skinhealthpros.com. Healthy skin, healthy body, healthy, happy you.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Kristen McQuarrie from the Tribune in for Amy. I'd like to talk pensions, but that's going to have to wait for another day. We've got some breaking news out of Belgium. Let's get to Mike Scott in the newsroom with that news.
Dan and Kristen, clouds and sun, 31 degrees right now here, but as we watch in Belgium this morning, state media, RTBF, reporting 2 explosions have been heard, 1 person detained in police raids in the Brussels neighborhood of Schaerbeek. It's not clear right now whether the raids are linked to the investigation into deadly attacks Tuesday on Brussels airport and subway system. At least 1 suspect in those attacks is at large, and it is unclear whether there were other accomplices at this point. Police earlier this week found a large stash of explosives in an apartment block in Schaerbeek believed to have been used by the suicide bombers in Tuesday's attacks. Now, we're going to go slow on this because we're also hearing from West German police, that 2 suspects in the western part of Germany are apparently under arrest, and they are linked to the terror attacks in Brussels. German media and police are both reporting that a suspect was arrested, and police. These reports are coming from Frankfurt right now, receiving 2 suspicious text messages shortly before the attacks. They allegedly include the name of one of the suicide bombers who killed at least 30 in Brussels on Tuesday. So what we have are twin explosions in Brussels this morning, 1 person detained, and 2 suspects, according to media reports from German police in Frankfurt, have been arrested, nabbed by German police after suspicious text messages were received that include the name of one of the suicide bombers in Brussels. At least 2 Americans are among those killed in Tuesday's terror attacks in Brussels. Secretary of State John Kerry confirmed the fatalities at a news conference today in Brussels after meeting with Belgium's prime minister. French officials say a man arrested yesterday outside Paris also has connections to the suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks. In this country, authorities in northwest Minnesota say they're letting burn off a propane that's in a truck that caught fire and exploded when it was struck by a freight train Thursday afternoon, forcing residents of the small town of Callaway to evacuate. They will not be let back into their homes until later today. In Spencer, Indiana, they believe they found the body of a 1-year-old girl missing since Wednesday. State police say the body found Thursday night near a river 13 miles away from her home fits the description of Shaylin Ammerman. Here in Chicago, a baby boy is safe after his mother was found dead in her apartment in Skokie. Catherine Benjamin was found dead yesterday in the 8200 block of Keating Avenue. Her 10-month-old son apparently dropped off at a local church by a man who matched Jermaine Powell's description. Chicago sports was the Knicks over the Bulls, 106-94 last night. The news, a service of the Lake Forest Graduate School of Management, who teaches Chicago's most relevant MBA, professors who develop theories, or business pros who deliver results. Lake Forest Graduate School of Management, Chicago's only MBA with a faculty of 100% business leaders. Visit lakeforestmba.edu/leader. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher does the math after many Super Tuesday.
Ted Cruz needs to win about 75% of the remaining votes in order to get the 1,237. Trump needs to get anywhere between 50 and 60% of the remaining votes, somewhere in that ballpark. It's mathematics. It's just math. And anything could happen.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Here Maps, the free app that helps you beat the jam with live traffic info and public transit schedules. Get it now at here.com/commute.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. AM 560 On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Did you know color is vital to your health? I'm talking about the color of the food you eat. A colorful diet is a part of staying well because many nutrients are color. Eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables provides your body with the diverse chemistry it needs to heal itself and stay well. Now ask yourself, how many servings of fruits and vegetables did I eat today? Balance of Nature has solved this problem and provides an easy and affordable way to consume over 10 servings of 31 different whole fruits and vegetables every day. My name is Dr. Howard. I've recommended Balance of Nature for over 15 years because of the excellent results I see in my patients.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
8:36 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. Traffic is generally light on the Chicago expressways. We have some awful crashes still in the suburbs. Eastbound Adams Tollway, it's jammed solid from past Randall Road to 25. Two left lanes remain blocked with a rollover limousine. Westbound, it's slow from Beverly to 25 with gapers. Eastbound 390, Elgin O'Hare, closed. Meacham to 290 due to a vehicle fire. The backup starts at Roselle Road. Veterans Memorial, southbound 355, it's closed. North Avenue to Roosevelt due to a crash. It's jammed from Lake Street. A ramp from North Avenue to southbound 355, that's closed. And northbound, the Gapers delay starts before Roosevelt. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the AirComfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Sunshine and 45 this afternoon. Currently sunshine and 31 at O'Hare. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Executive Green Carpet Cleaning, home of the no-risk guarantee. Visit executivegreencarpetcleaning.com.
Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues right now. And make sure to join me, Sean Hannity, this afternoon starting at 2, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Dan, and sitting in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune editorial board member Kristen McQuarrie. And Kristen, remember after the Paris attack in November, John Kerry brought James Taylor out to Paris to sing You've Got a Friend?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Really effective way of building bridges.
Kerry's supposed to be out in Brussels today.
Maybe Bill Withers, Lean on Me. Could you bring him? That would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Help soothe, calm.
There's nothing that a platitude and a song can't do to combat radical Islamic terrorism. As
Music
no one
is
says.
The universal language.
Yeah. There's this piece I wanted to point to in the New York Times. by a German national, who's a media type in Germany. It's very interesting. He writes that official Europe has worked hard to move past nationalism so that there's no German or French dream, but there's no European dream either, not yet. So new migrants have no spirit to tap into, as they do in the United States, the American dream concept I assume he's referring to. Instead, some Muslims find it more attractive to give their loyalty to Allah, their fellow believers of the Islamic State. Intelligence services estimate up to 6,000 jihadists from Western Europe have traveled to join the Islamic State. This enormous figure does not illustrate merely the failures of immigration policy. It also shows the failure of mainstream European Muslims to keep their youth immune from extremism, which is an interesting statement. I agree with that. Then he goes on to say essentially that Angela Merkel should lead Europe up to a European dream, should promote values for everyone in Europe, a European dream of integration more appealing to its immigrants than the afterlife kingdom could possibly be. It reminds me of this, and this is what the left has done, and they've done so in this country, in particular, starting with the President of the United States. This is Marcelo Pera, who is the president of the Italian Senate, the first part of this century, and who does not believe in God, by the way. He wrote in his book, why we should call, what the name of his book was, Why We Should Call Ourselves Christians. This is from a non-believer. What he wrote was that in the Islamic world, religion is the state, the church is the state. In French and other secularizing revolutions, the state is the church. The state generates moral values of its own and then enforces them. And what you have this author at the New York Times suggesting is immanentizing the eschaton. We're going to create a heaven on earth that's better than any afterlife could be. And it's about religious extremism in general, not Islamic extremism. So what they do is to suggest that there's a small percentage of people that affiliate with Islam, just like that affiliate with Christianity, who are radicals, who are extremists. And this is where the state needs to intercede and replace religion as the religion in secular society. That's the real endgame of the left. And I think that needs to be called out in this larger conversation, particularly as religious freedom is under assault in this country. And we know how religious freedom and pluralism when it comes to faith is treated in North Africa and the Middle and so much of the Middle East.
I think it sounds like, just to simplify, that there are still those on the left who want to try to help these people assimilate, and somehow we're blaming government and culture and citizens for not being as welcoming and not creating as much safe space for these new cultures to assimilate. I mean, to me, it's ridiculous.
For more on this, we're now joined by Dr. Waleed Phares, friend of the show. You see Dr. Phares on Fox News all the time. He's a Middle East and counterterrorism expert, and also recently named as part of one of Donald Trump's kind of inner circle of foreign policy advisors. Dr. Phares, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
So give us your assessment of the Belgian, the Brussels terrorist attack and the Belgian response in the last 72 hours.
Yes. First, the attack perpetrated by a network of jihadists who, of course, have their connections to ISIS. The same network had connections to Al-Qaeda, and after ISIS, the same network would have a connection to the next one. What is important is how did this network, how was it created? Well, because of indoctrination. This is where the battle should be. Now, of course, when they become cells and they act and they target airports and they target high-profile locations such as the metro station near the European Parliament and NATO, once they get to that point, it becomes warfare. It becomes battlefield. Belgian forces were deploying soldiers on the streets of Belgium, have never seen this before. As a matter of fact, I was there 10 days ago. I was testifying at the European Parliament. We were discussing precisely radicalization and indoctrination, which is the major concern for the next waves of jihadists, because they are being made right now as we speak.
What do you make of some of the questions that Belgium authorities did not, that they dropped the ball? You have two of them offering to resign. What can be done to have more information sharing here and throughout Europe?
My point has been that in the war against the terrorists, when the terrorists become terrorists, they become soldiers, they become commandos. You're going to see it from a kinetic, actual warfare situation. Once they become an army or a network or cells, then at times they can win, Most times they are captured. Look at our list here. We have about probably, I'm not sure about the exact number, 60 to 65 cases of attempts since 2001, since 9/11. And you had 5 or 6 bloody ones. The 5 or 6 bloody ones are the successful jihadi operations. The last ones are very, very striking. San Bernardino, Chattanooga, Boston, and others. So the issue is, when you fight it, with military means, this is a military battle, you're going to incur losses. So the issue, where to go to stop that wave of jihadism from the beginning, from the inception, that's a war of ideas. That's a different story.
We're talking to Dr. Waleed Phares, Fox News Channel, national security, counterterrorism expert and analyst. Dr. Phares, we had Professor Robert Pape from the University of Chicago on the show earlier. He runs the Counterterrorism Security Project there, and he suggested that about 6 months ago, ISIS made a conscious change in strategy to focus on these kind of coordinated attacks within nations that are part of the military coalition against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. And he suggests that these attacks are indicative of a response to the fact that ISIS is losing. They're losing territory in Syria and Iraq, and that these attacks will continue as almost sort of the death throes of ISIS, not tomorrow, but not decades from now either. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, let me address the assessment in 2 components. If the component is that when ISIS is under pressure, it would use all the weapons at its disposal, yes. Any nation, any fighting force would do the same. If when Germany was bombed by the Allies, they launched the V1s and then the V2s. Makes sense. But ISIS has a project and has had a project of moving forward and conquering more land. Therefore, they were developing those weapons, those human missiles, who are the suicide bombers, etc. Here, I disagree with the second component. It's not like 6 months ago when they started to lose, they developed that weapon. No, from day one, they were developing that weapon, and they used that weapon more frequently to put pressure on us. So, I do not agree with the fact that suicide bombers are only a response to their defeat. They are also an offensive weapon as well.
You've made headlines recently as one of Trump's advisors. Could you clarify what your role with his campaign is and elaborate a little bit on how you will advise someone who, he proposes unwinding the Iran nuclear deal? Maybe that's agreeable. He thinks NATO is maybe not an effective body that we should be funding. He supports torture. He recently kept misspeaking and referring to Palestine. What is your role, and how will you help him? How will you guide him on the rest of his presidential campaign?
Are all huge files that, of course, he will be talking about with his many advisors. I'm just one of them. And not all of these files are easy. Most of them have been already announced. So there will be a great discussion within the campaign among the advisors on national security, on foreign policy, to transform these talking points. And because, he is a politician fighting an electoral battle. He's not sitting at a desk at the White House, and then working with national security teams yet. So this is a different landscape. Let me say that I have advised 4 to 5 Republican candidates in 2015. And among them, I have had, actually, I should not say advised, I had offered briefings. I was not yet a member of any campaign. I had offered briefings to all of them. We spoke of some of the issues. Some of the issues that I spoke about with these candidates, and they asked me questions about, was Syria, what to do with Syria, what to do with the refugees, what to do with the Iranian, not just deal, but threat as well. How can we talk about an Arab coalition? So these areas where I have the expertise, I offered my opinion. Now, when the field narrowed to 3, principally 2, then Mr. Trump, through his aides and advisors, asked me if I would be willing to join to offer my expertise then as an advisor. And I accepted. That was actually only last week. Now, of course, it became in the news. With regard to these files, they are areas where I have a clear thinking because it's in my books, in my articles. I have been advising many, many members of Congress and the European Parliament, and I have an expertise in these fields. Other files I don't have much expertise about. I am still learning, such as how do we treat a detainee. This is not my expertise, but there will be a discussion about it when you mention torture or waterboarding. I've been asked by the mainstream media, what do you think about that? I told them this is outside my expertise, but I'm willing to listen and discuss. My expertise is what to do in Syria. So what to do in Syria, there is a whole vision that we would like to discuss, what to do also against ISIS, against the ramification of the Iranian deal. So, yes, there are many areas where I'll be, I think, very helpful in offering ideas and also strategies, and other areas where there's going to be a discussion among the various experts of the campaign.
And how should we all understand ISIS and radical Islamic terror more generally? There seems to be a debate raging or re-raging whether ISIS is some sort of police action or this is a representative of a World War III, this time the enemy being radical Islamic terror. Is this an existential threat in a war, or is it something less than that, as President Obama suggests?
Well, first of all, let's look at the facts, at the global facts. Where is ISIS? It's in many countries. So what do you call a confrontation with an entity that is operating in many countries? International, global. So the global aspect of ISIS is there. And it's not just in the Middle East, in North Africa. We've seen it in Paris, we've seen it in San Bernardino, we've seen it in Brussels and beyond. So it is really a universal fight. Second, is that fight basically a military confrontation? Of course it is. There are cities that fell in the hands of ISIS in Mosul, in Raqqa, and other places. There are many countries involved in that fight on the ground. That organization was responsible for genocide as Congress and as the European Parliament have voted over the past a few weeks. So we are dealing with a big phenomenon. Is it existential threat? The existential threat begins against some, and then it goes beyond. Look at the Hitler, look at the National Socialists. They threatened Czechoslovakia and then Poland and then the Jews and move forward, and then they threaten everybody else, including the Soviet Union and Britain and later on the United States. ISIS has been threatening, first of all, the Sunni moderates, killing them. Then they actually massacred the Yazidis and massacred the Christians of northern Iraq and pushed and killed many citizens, international citizens. So, yes, it is an moving worldwide, wherever they're going to reach. When they bomb people in the streets of Brussels or in any city around the West, that is evidence of their intention to become an existential threat. So from that perspective, yes, they are.
All right. He is Dr. Waleed Phares, Fox News Middle East and counterterrorism expert, as well as a Trump campaign advisor. Dr. Phares, pleasure as always to be joined by you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And he joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Your forecast today is mostly sunny, high of 45. Tonight, partly cloudy, we drop down to 32 degrees. And tomorrow, some sunshine giving way to clouds and the temperatures climbing almost to 60 degrees. Now we'll get a check of traffic from Jim Talamonte.
Christian and Dan, the Veterans Memorial Tollway southbound 355 remains closed. North Avenue to Roosevelt after a crash. Traffic is forced off at North Avenue. Big delays start around Lake Street. Northbound, there's a Gapers delay starting past Roosevelt. Eastbound 390, Elgin O'Hare, closed at Meacham right now due to a vehicle fire. Traffic is forced off at Meacham. The big backup starts at Wright Boulevard. Eastbound Adams Tollway stop and go from before 31 to 25, where an earlier rollover has cleared. Westbound heavy 25 to the Fox River Bridge. The inbound Eisenhower has a 1-minute delay coming into downtown. The Stevenson a 2-minute delay approaching Lakeshore Drive. The Ryan just a tad heavy at the circle. That's traffic. The Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
On AM 560 The Answer, we talk about the important issues that affect your world. Things like the economy, education, and foreign policy. There's always so much going on in the news that we don't always have the time to drill down and talk about the big ideas behind the big issues. That's where Upstream Ideas comes in. Upstream Ideas, online at upstream-ideas.com, in partnership with the Illinois Policy Institute, provides the kind of information that informs the policy discussions happening here on AM 560. At Upstream Ideas, ideas, you'll broaden the debate, move beyond partisan assumptions, and challenge accepted orthodoxies. In other words, Upstream Ideas goes against the current and thinks upstream. Go online now to upstream-ideas.com. That's upstream-ideas.com. You'll be armed with new information and fresh perspectives to spur you on to make the state of Illinois and the United States of America a bit more free, a bit more just, and a bit more civilized. upstream-ideas.com.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I'm the chair for the company picnic committee, and I'm overwhelmed with finding the perfect catering partner.
Don't be freaked out by that. Tasty Catering has done our company picnic every year for the last 5 years. I actually went to Tasty Catering's kitchen first to taste the food. They serve juicy burgers right from the grill, fresh salads, awesome sides, and fun foods for the kids. Last year, we even had delicious brisket and an entire pig roast.
Can they handle all the details? There's not much time to plan.
Planning was even easier. Tasty Catering handled every detail, from serving pieces to inflatables for the kids, the DJ, and of course, the bar area.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
Just go to tastycatering.com. The pricing was right, and our CFO signed off on the contract immediately.
The best company picnics start at tastycatering.com. View picnic menus and locations, entertainment options, and more. That's tastycatering.com.
If you or someone you know is addicted to drugs or alcohol, this could be the most important message of your life. Write down this number or store it in your cell phone. But call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. By calling the treatment helpline for drug and alcohol addiction, you can turn your life around. Our advisors will match you with a proven 5-star luxury treatment center that will end your drug or alcohol addiction once and for all. Your future can still be bright. When you call right now, you'll speak to a recovering addict who understands what you're going through. Let us help you break your addiction to drug or alcohol before it's too late. This call is completely confidential, and if you have private insurance, there should be no cost to you. Take 5 minutes of your time and call right now. It may change your life for the better. Call 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. Call 1-800-426-6186.
What's your caliber? Black Rhino Concealment knows many AM 560 listeners carry or plan to and want the best holsters for concealed carry, range practice, or competitive shooting. Black Rhinos are comfortable and safe. Every holster is handcrafted by veterans of 100% virgin Kydex with American-made fasteners. From precision fit and finish to secure retention and quick draw, a Black Rhino is the finest holster at a modest price. Backed by a lifetime material warranty and workmanship guarantee, Black Rhino has tactical carrier and concealed carry systems for every caliber. You and your firearm deserve a Black Rhino. The Second Amendment protects our right to bear